I see those big, bright, shiny red trucks just a-trucking down the road. Those big, bright, shiny red trucks just a-looking for another load. Well, it's a family tradition, any Rocky Mountain day. Our fathers before us showed us the way. We work for asphalt cowboys and concrete kings, but that's never been a problem, cause we got diesel in our veins. We've got diesel in our veins. I see those big, bright, shiny red trucks just a-trucking down the road. Those big, bright, shiny red trucks just looking for another load. I hear there's a couple million tons to move. I see them everywhere. So you best get out their way and watch that sand and gravel disappear. There's another run to make. We gotta get it there on time. And we got what it takes to lay it all out on the line. We'll lay it all out on the line. I see those big, bright, shiny red trucks just a-trucking down the road. Those big, bright, shiny red trucks just looking for another load. Those big, bright, shiny red trucks got the best drivers in town. They got all the tools they need to keep that hammer down. When they hit them scales, they won't need to dodge them, won't need to duck them. They just keep that hammer down, and they keep that diesel trucking. Keep that hammer down, and keep that diesel trucking. I see those big, bright, shiny red trucks just a-trucking down the road. Those big, bright, shiny red trucks just a-looking for another load. They just keep them doors a-closed, keep them butts in their seats, cause those customers are calling, and those red trucks can't be beat. They've gotta put the hammer down and pick up another load. Get it off the ground, keep them eyes open and on the road. Keep them eyes open on the road. I see those big, bright, shiny red trucks just a-trucking down the road. Those big, bright, shiny red trucks just looking for another load. Breaker 23, anybody got a copy on that Channel 23 podcast? Welcome, and thanks for listening.
All right, man. I love that. That song is amazing.
Yeah, that's our new intro, and it's a dedication to everybody out there, you guys.
Yep.
Have to brag. Brother Dave wrote that one, and then he was able to get somebody or hired a company to put it to music and sing it. So I think he did a great job. And
amazing. He put a lot of work in it. The funny thing is Brother Dave hated the intro music for 70 episodes. He's complained about it. It took 70 episodes, but one day he solved it. He wrote a song.
Right.
And that's about what it was going to take for me to change the intro music. So congrats, Brother Dave. That's amazing. So welcome back, everybody. The purpose of this podcast is to reach out and touch the fleet, to engage and inform everyone with all things JFW. In the studio today, we got Jim White, Garter Boy, Super Dave, singer-songwriter Dave White, and our very special guest, Al Frei Jr. Welcome, guys.
Hi, everybody.
Morning, everybody. Morning, Al.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good one. You guys ready to rock and roll?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, let's kick it off with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Man, I still can't believe we get to do this. This is it's just fun.
Yeah.
You know? What a great way to spend our Wednesday morning.
Have to come up with a lot of information. I mean, it's a little bit of work to do that, but once we step in here, it's fun.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
it's it's like, oh, we get to talk about all this stuff, and have guests like you, Al. It's awesome.
And I got to thank everybody because, in the beginning, it was easy for me to write an outline. There was just so much to talk about. The first 10 episodes, it's like, piece of cake, and it just gets harder. So I appreciate everybody jumping in. I had a lot of help last week. This week, I had more help from the brothers, Super Dave, Linda. They wrote the questions, so I appreciate everybody's help. Just as a reminder, anything you hear on today's podcast is not the opinion of JFW or Albert Frei and Sons. It is just the 5 men in this room's opinion. So, episode 70 did well. It had 455 downloads. We are at 26,634 total downloads, and we have 164 followers. This week, we picked up the Czech Republic and Indonesia. I mean, it just went off, but somebody out there
right?
really had nothing else to do but listen to our podcast.
Well, hopefully we were entertaining.
Well, I know Steve Schwegler stopped by last week.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Steve.
He was we picked up another country last week.
Puerto Rico.
And he said, that was me.
That was,
he said I was in Puerto Rico. Yeah, he was on vacation in Puerto Rico, and he said, I saw the podcast came out. He said I had to download it and listen. So he goes, that was me.
Awesome.
So anyway, hey Steve, thanks for stopping by, buddy. It was
good
to see you, Steve.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to have Al on. When I was a kid, I wanted to work at a rock quarry, and it was like I was about 14 years old. And back then, Jim and Dave, you probably don't know because you've never had to look for a job, right? But you used to get the newspaper and you would circle the jobs that you wanted to apply for. And then you would go around. Some of them were, don't call, apply in person. So I rode my bike to this rock quarry, and I get there, and, I'm like, I want an application to fill out. I got a squeaky voice still. I'm looking up. I want to fill out an application, and they're like, sorry, you're too young. So I pull out the newspaper, and I show them. It says, now hiring minors.
And the dad jokes have begun.
So fast forward a few years, I actually applied at Albert Frei and Sons. I drove up to Fry Pit 6, and I walk in there and I fill out the application, and the guy looks at me and he says, getting stoned is not relative job experience.
Bam! You are on it, Jim. He's on a roll.
I'm not even going to say that.
Right?
Yeah. You rocked it.
Yeah.
It's time for the dad joke challenge. Al, we're going to let you go first.
Well, on that note, mine's pretty quick and short, but since we're, putting the companies on the line, why can't test tube babies be truck drivers?
Ooh. Oh, man.
Because they're not Peterbilt.
Oh, man. That's a good one.
There you go.
Nice
Way
job.
to represent. I like
Coming
it.
in swinging.
I like it.
Yep, there you go.
Oh, man, mine's going to pale in comparison, but not everybody knows my wife's gone out of town this week. We've been married a long time, and just her being gone, I miss her, and I was like, gosh, it reminded me of our first date, and I just got to thinking about it, and what capped off that first date, she just loves tonic water. And on our first date, I bought her a bottle of tonic water, and I guess you could say I schwepped her off her feet.
Oh, man.
Well, they're going down.
Yeah.
Mine's a dad joke, but it's a little bit longer, and it's about this old man that accidentally crashes into this really nice car, and it happens to be a rich guy, and he really messes the back of the guy's car up, and the guy gets out of the car all upset, and he goes, man, he said, do you see what you've done to my car? You messed it up. He said, I want $10,000 right now, cash. And the old man's like, oh, I'm sorry. He said, I just don't have that kind of money on me. He said, let me call my son because he teaches dolphins. And the guy's like, I don't care if he teaches dolphins or what he does. That's weird. He said, call him. I want my car fixed, and I want the $10,000. And so the old guy calls his son up, and he goes, hey, son, I'm here. And before he can even finish talking to the guy, the rich guy rips the phone out of his hands and says, I don't care what you do. You teach dolphins or whatever. You're this old guy crashed into me, and I want $10,000. And he said, otherwise, he said, I'm going to beat you, and I'm going to beat your dad, or the old man here. And he said, and the guy's like, fine, I'll be right there. Hangs up the phone. Pretty soon this guy shows up in a Jeep. And he gets out, and He gets in a fight with the rich guy, beats him up, leaves him on the curb. He walks over to the old guy and he looks at the old guy and he goes, "Dad," he says, "I don't teach dolphins. I train Navy SEALs."
I didn't see that one coming at all.
That reminds me of did we tell the penguin joke? The guy gets in an accident. He's on the way to the zoo to bring the penguins there, and he breaks down. So somebody's like, "Can I help you?" He's like, "Yeah, will you take the penguins to the zoo?" The guy's like, "Yeah." So the guy gets his car going, or his van, or the truck, or whatever, and he goes to the zoo, and the penguins aren't there. So he starts freaking out, and he's driving all over the place, and all of a sudden, he sees the guy coming out of the movie theater with a bunch of penguins. He's like, "Hey, I told you to take the penguins to the zoo." He's like, "I did, and when we were done there, we went to the movie theater. I was going to take them bowling there." Soup, what do you got?
Well, I'll tell you, I got a lame dad joke right out of Big Country's dad joke book that
Awesome.
he gave me last week.
Oh, I got to interrupt you, Dave. That was mine was from Big Country's calendar that he gave me.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
so-
I got a dad joke calendar.
I thought it was cute. Bella will like it
I will tell her, or I'll let her listen.
for sure. Why does Waldo wear a striped shirt?
Why?
Well, because he doesn't want to be spotted.
That is good.
Ba-da-ba.
Boom. All right, new employees. We had Mickey Kendrick start this week. Welcome, Mickey.
Welcome aboard, Mickey.
Where's he from, Super Dave?
He's from Tennessee.
Okay, I like his
Yeah,
accent.
So I
Yeah.
want to introduce him to Big Country so they can talk about Tennessee.
Gotcha. I like it. Celebrations, anniversaries. Last week I missed Stingray. He was trying to make it no big deal. He's like, "Oh, it's only 18 years." He's like, "When I hit 20, that's a big deal." So happy anniversary, Stingray. He hit 18 years on the 2nd.
Congratulations, Stingray. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
Stingray
you for
could
all
be
your time
into
here.
his 20s if he didn't quit twice and came back twice.
Yeah. He says you give him a hard time about that.
You bet.
John Donava, 2 years today. Happy anniversary, John.
Congrats,
Little
John.
Is that
That's technically longer than that because he
gonna
worked
say.
for us for 2 summers or
Oh,
He
part-time.
started in the Wash
Yeah.
Bay.
3.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Part-time, yeah. Sorry about that, John. So it's probably 4 years, yep. Edward Cabral, 1 year today.
Well, congrats,
Yeah,
Edward.
Right,
congratulations.
yeah.
And then Randy Hogue, 3 years tomorrow.
Wow,
Fantastic.
big Randy, 3
Congratulations,
years.
It's been a long 3 years.
I told Randy it feels like 10.
He is one of those guys that sounds like you're giving him a hard time, like it feels like 10. It
I
just
am.
feels like he's always been here because
I'm-
he's
Yeah.
so
I'm
well.
giving him a hard time.
Yeah.
Birthdays, Alan Chili Dog Martinez and Armando Duval had a birthday on March 5th.
Yeah, happy birthday,
Happy
you guys.
birthday,
Hey,
guys.
birthday.
And then family birthday celebrations, we got Giselle Areola and Olivia Romero. March 6th were their birthdays. So that's Alonzo and Veronica's daughter, and then Dustin's daughter, Olivia.
And Olivia is the one that was here with Dustin when we did the one podcast. Do I have the right?
Yes.
She was-
Yep, she's done a couple ride-alongs. She's turning 16, so.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, very cool.
Yep.
There's also one more birthday on March 5th. Jim Sr. had a birthday on March 5th.
Oh, happy birthday,
Happy
Jim
birthday,
Senior.
senior.
Yep. Yep.
We'll have to
And-
get that into the spreadsheet.
All right.
Yep. Yep. And I know since Al's here this morning, I happen to know it's his brother's birthday, Joe, right? It's his birthday today.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah,
happy
yeah.
birthday, Joe.
Very cool. And then Fabiola, which is Pedro Sotelo's wife, she wanted to thank us for the card and the gift that she received. So,
Fantastic.
yep. I think it was for his anniversary. Yep.
Very cool.
So shout outs. Anybody have shout outs before I move on to mine?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention Jam is kind of I was just looking for something different because we try to say thank you to everybody. And I know when we had our steering committee last week, Scooby mentioned about saying thank you to everybody and how important it is and to hear that kind of stuff. And
Right.
and we talk about a lot of the new guys. And I know we just did anniversaries, but I just wanted to mention, I looked it up right quick. And you might not be at your 7 years. Let's say your 7 years is June of this year, but I just wrote it down anyway. So we have 16 people just quickly that have been with us 7 years plus.
Wow.
And I just picked that because that's a lot of people at 7 years. So
Yeah.
I want to just give a shout out. So that's Dwayne Sands, that's JR, Dustin Romero, Mike Bortz, Charlie Brand, Rich Brown, John Dean, Chris Beam, Ann Stutz, Linda, my wife Holly, Marty, Rick Gray, Mikey in the shop, Mike Stingray, obviously, because he just did 18, and Dave Weldon here. So,
Nice.
yeah, thank you guys for
Yeah.
all the years.
That's awesome.
We missed that marks. You know what I mean? It's important to have retention.
Al, what's retention like over at Albert Frei and Sons?
Oh, we're really blessed like that.
Yeah.
We kind of have an internal joke that if you last 3 months at Albert Frei, you'll probably be there for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Great problem to have.
Yeah.
How long has Bashu been there?
Bashu's pushing almost 13 years.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a great guy, man.
Bashu was amazing.
Yeah.
He's got a pretty good name down
You
here.
guys kind of know his story a little bit.
No, can you tell us?
I hired him out of the gas station in Idaho Springs.
No way.
Yep.
That's awesome.
And creature of habit, go there, get gas, do the same thing all the time, and he said, I want to come work for you. I said, you don't want to work at a quarry. He said, no, I've heard good things about you guys. And so eventually he came over, started as a bin operator, and then moved into the scale, and now he's kind of the scale master, front lead supervisor. But he came from Nepal. And he came from Nepal on a persecution visa.
Wow.
And he was thrown into the jungle by the communists, and because he was kind of a school teacher and teaching kind of economic and democratic ways, and got out of Nepal, and now he's here. His family's here. He's got 2 kids.
That's awesome.
And then his culture is great.
I really appreciate you telling us that, because a lot of people have asked, where's Bashu from? And nobody knows. And, people will guess and stuff like that. But what a story, man. And, his name's kind of a staple down here. And even sometimes, because we send our tickets electronically to our drivers, and we'll even say ticket in the box
Yeah.
when we send a ticket. So, yeah.
It usually has a little twang to it.
Yeah. Ticket in the box.
Yeah, but I've never even heard of that, Alan. A persecution visa?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's the right term, but he got here because he was in trouble, and
Right.
and our country did the right thing.
I mean, and to hear that he was a teacher, like people that have a heart of a teacher, I mean, that's not me, and I got a special place in my heart for those people because of their hearts. But yeah, that's wild.
Yeah,
So
that's
good stuff.
The American dream. I'm glad we could help.
Shout out to
Yeah.
Bashu. Anybody else have any shout outs before I move on to the company shout outs?
I do have a neat story about Bashu.
Okay.
I was coming down from doing a delivery up at, I don't know, it was one of the mountain golf courses. Maybe it was up in Breckenridge. But anyway, it was the last load of the day. So typically, Al, what we do is we try to get down the hill and grab a last load out of the quarry to come down the rest of the way into town so we don't come back empty-handed,
Absolutely, yeah.
And it was a load of topsoil, and I hadn't completely cleaned out, so I pulled across the street, and I was up in my trailer, and it was late. I mean, it was probably 4:45. And so I really wasn't in like a hurry because I knew how late it was, and I'm in the trailer sweeping out, and I'm thinking, wow, this is too late. I'm not going to get my load, Bashu ran across the street, said, hey, JFW, hey, and I'm looking over the top rail of my trailer, and he goes, do you need a load? And I said, yeah, I do. And he goes, well, they're still running out of the bins, because I think you run until like 6 o'clock at night in the summertime. He goes, just cruise under the bin and tell them, where you're going, and they'll get you loaded. I didn't ask. I mean, I didn't beg or anything. I mean, I didn't even talk to. I thought Bashu was gone. But yet he took it upon himself to run across the street
That's awesome.
and
That
get,
is
and
very
get,
cool.
and get me a load.
Another shout out to Bashu.
Yeah, that's good people right there.
That's the Frei way, just taking care of people. Now, that doesn't mean everybody can show up there at 5:30
No.
to get the last load either, but
Absolutely.
that's great.
that's
I love
funny.
that.
Yep.
Shout out to all the drivers that signed up for the truck rodeo. They are moving forward, or we are moving forward to April 1st date. The rain date will be April 22nd. So we got the truck rodeo going down, and it's less than a month away. So good deal.
It'll be here before you know it, Jim.
Yep. I want to give a shout out to everyone who made it through the winter. I know we still got some Probably a little bit of snow in the forecast, and we're not completely out of the woods yet. But
Yeah.
man, it's been a tough winter, and if you've been hanging in there, we appreciate it. And things are getting ready to crack open here pretty quick. So it won't be overnight, but it will be ramping up pretty soon.
for sure.
So
Yeah, that's a good one, Jam. Thanks, everybody.
yep,
Yep. Don't forget, change your clocks this weekend.
Yeah.
That's the first sign of spring.
my
Right.
iPhone does that. Change my clock. Tony Martinez, he wanted to give a shout out. He says, "Good afternoon, fellas. Next week podcast, I want to send a big shout out. As you guys know, my assigned truck has been in and out of the shop. This morning I got loaded around 6 a.m. in Fairplay and broke down in Jefferson County. 0096 had derated and had no power. On top of that, I had no phone service. Well, the following drivers helped me out as much as possible. Jesse in 00103 saw me parked in Jefferson, got out on the radio and asked if I was okay. I replied yes. Then he asked me if I wanted to Netflix and chill. My reply, I don't Netflix and chill with people who still watch Paw Patrol. Okay. Dale pulled up behind me and parked, got out to talk to me, so I got out to chat with him. Well, instead of chat, he gave me 2 backhands and told me to quit breaking stuff, then drove away. I was terrified. Then there was Kurt, kind, positive, and cheesy ass smile. Had got on the radio and said, I remember my first driver. Good luck. Then Bob with phone call assisted with Mikey. What a start to my Friday. Good thing the weather was fair and the roads were dry. Story was a little dramatic. All in all, these gentlemen did the right thing and reached out and helped me as much as possible. Keep grinding and keep pounding the pavement. Thanks, fellas.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a good one from Tony.
And then Chili Dog wanted to give a shout out. It's funny, I must have left my phone downstairs, but if I recall his text message, he won't. No. Yeah, Chili Dog wanted to give a shout out to whoever drove his truck for the last few days. I did look in Samsara. It was a combination of Bob Marty in yesterday. The day before was Billy Rosfus, which I know how to pronounce now. And then Friday was Tony Martinez. So those 3 guys, shout out from Chili Dog.
Very cool.
Yep. All right. Any more shout outs, guys? I don't want to miss anything. No?
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Getting into discussion, let's talk about dispatch times. I know we've been having some trouble with that. Anybody want to elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, I think we just wanted to touch on it, Jam, that, when you're assigned a dispatch time, and I know everybody, like you just announced, we got through the winter and stuff. People are probably, short on cash, that kind of stuff. Tired of sitting at home waiting for loads and different things like that. But when we assign a dispatch time, that is your start time, and we can't have you leaving way early and running up, to Fry's and grabbing an early load, because when other people follow that start time, you're kind of taking a load away from them. So we're trying to spread out all the loads so everybody gets a load. And then the other reason is, you might have that start time because the plant didn't want you there at 5:30 or 6 o'clock. They're not going to start batching until, let's say, 7 o'clock. They haven't made any room in their stockpiles till 7:30 or something. So if we give you a 6 o'clock dispatch, that makes it look like the plant needs the material and the plant operator doesn't shut you off. I know we had a fairly early start this week, and we had some guys, out of here at 4:30 and 5, and we do not want to, ding anybody for being early and doing their job. I mean, that's a fantastic deal to do that. But we had 150 tons in the plant before they even batched anything.
Right.
And it's just too much. We can't do that.
And it's like everything else, 30 days or 60 days from now, we're going to be begging for early loads in the morning.
Exactly.
Because we're going to be so busy. And right now it's just a little slow. It's that time of year. We're seasonal, and we'll have to get through it. It'll change, before we know it.
Yeah. Wait for us to wave that flag.
Right.
Because right now is not the time. And if you have a 6 a.m. start and you're leaving at 4:30, it's just to serve yourself, right? We need to serve each other first and then serve our customers. So if you have a 6 a.m. start, that means get here at 6. I mean, technically, you could be out the gate at 6:08 at a 6 a.m. start. If you do a pre-trip.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
and we're not trying to ding anybody, and we're not doing it just to mess with everybody.
Right.
It's just the better way to do it.
Yep. And hey, don't be late either. Okay.
It really is customer service. I explained to the guys a lot. Do you know how big these piles are when you get 20 of them on the ground?
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and when things are busy, every one of those piles goes into the bin, goes into a grate, and it disappears. And 20 minutes later, it's in a mixer truck. But at this time of year, we can't do that because
Right.
they're not batching.
I've had to run over to Plant 12 because the loader operator wasn't over there, and we have, we got piles on the ground, and man, it's overwhelming to get there. And it takes a while to get caught up and get
Right.
everything where it needs to be to a point where it's easy work, So
Well,
we don't want to.
I've made a few calls to Linda. I'm like, what is going on? Half the fleet is up here all at the same time, and so that's kind of helpful too to get the flow going, and
Sure.
and it's across your customers, of course, but it's the same thing when you guys are picking up loads. When everybody shows up at once,
Right.
it's a little problematic, and
Yeah,
then
it is.
everybody's upset because then everybody's waiting, and
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not just JFW showing up; it's
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
showing up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we
And
get
then
it.
you do us all a favor too, Al. You start early enough, and that's nice to grab that first load from you and get down here. But like you said, everybody is there, and we need to be respectful and think about what's going on.
Absolutely. The other thing too is if we have a bunch of guys waiting to start at 6 a.m. and then you're starting at 4:30, what is that? How does that feel to those guys that paid
Right.
attention and did the right thing?
Yeah, you just like I said, you might just be taking their load
Yeah.
because you've already
Yeah.
got a load and they get shut off, and that's not fair.
And then those guys are going to start early tomorrow.
Right. Oh,
And
well,
it's going to steamroll.
yeah. Super Dave started at 4. I'm starting at 3:55.
Exactly.
Next thing on the list is let's make sure our cameras are pointed where they need to be pointed. Okay, some guys are wiping their windows or doing something, and you'll bump your camera, and then it's just not effective to be pointing down at the dashboard or up at the headliner. You know what I mean? We can tighten those up as well. That's probably what we need to do. But basically, if you look at your camera, if you're standing like at your step, your camera should just be 90 degrees up and down. If it's 90 degrees up and down, it's going to see everything that it needs to see. Okay?
Yeah, good point, Jim.
Yeah.
And again, we use those so much for safety and to exonerate us,
Yeah.
basically.
It covers your butt.
Yeah.
Protection.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like Dennis Viscara, me and Dave were just talking about him the other day. We need to give him a call, see how he's doing. But, he quoted that when's my camera going to be fixed because it was broke that one time. And he goes, I feel naked without it.
Yep.
And that's true.
Yeah.
But he was, he's an older guy. He just retired last year. But he was one of the first people that hated the camera.
Yeah.
He was opposed
Well, I don't
to
need.
it.
I don't need Big Brother, sitting in my cab with me.
Right.
And then after time, it became his friend.
Right,
You know?
a tool he used.
Yep.
Yep. Absolutely. Also, if you get a new windshield and your camera's not hung up, just let us know. It'll take us 5 minutes to put your camera up just to grab some tape and mount it because sitting on your dashboard is not helping you at all.
Right. Yeah.
So let us know. Next on the list, we got after treatment issues. Brother Dave, I think you're pretty passionate about this one.
Yeah, I'm passionate about it, but I don't have any answers or can fix anything. It's the world we live in right now, everybody, and we are just inundated every morning. Well, throughout the day, the mornings are obviously worse, and we're trying to work through some problems, that we're seeing as a resolve. But we're running into everything from EGR codes to DPF codes to sensors. Some of them we're finding some wiring issues, but unfortunately, everything we're forced to own, that's what we have, and this is what we have to deal with. Let's just try and get through it the best we can. I know PACCAR actually called upon us. I get to go back at the end of the month to the Kenworth factory, and they chose 6 customers throughout the United States. We were blessed enough to be one of them, just to work with their quality assurance department, and they basically want a list of what issues or problems we have so they can work on it from their end. And unfortunately, you guys, these, I'll call them mandates, but to make the emissions restrictions that they've been forced to make, they have systems in place that are not tried and true, right? The creation of these components were so fast and so furious, they're not bulletproof. You take Henry Ford, he designed a vehicle, what are we pushing, 100 years ago now, that would last. right? He had innovation. There was creation. There was longevity. All of these things in there, and he wasn't mandated by the government to create that. Right? Now we're having to meet restrictions in these issues, and it's only going to get tighter and tougher. And I don't want to use the word worse just because that sounds bad, but we have some next steps in the next 24 months that they're going to be forced to make. Right now, our trucks are allowed 0.2% carbon emission. In the next step of 2024, they're only going to be allowed 0.02%
and can
carbon emission.
I just want to interrupt you, Dave, so we understand that, or so they understand that, because I think when we say after treatment, what is that? Can you explain that?
Yeah.
Because
so if you just take a raw diesel engine and start it, they smoke. Go back to a Mack truck from 1970. Just starting it, the amount of smoke that comes out of the stack, let alone every gear you shift, every time you step on the throttle. If you're just on the throttle the whole time, it's just a constant stream of black smoke. That is cool, Dave, but we are better now. Right?
Rolling coal, baby.
yeah, scraper smoke.
Yeah, exactly. That was cool once upon a time, but we are a better world without that now. We all want cleaner air, cleaner water, all of that great stuff, right? But there's a point where, so I guess to get back to answer your question,
Yeah,
Jim,
because
they've called, the reason it's called an after treatment system is we are treating the exhaust that's coming out of the engine with an after treatment system, meaning DEF, diesel exhaust fluid, right?
After it's burnt or exploded, and we've ran it through the engine, there's an exhaust coming out.
So the exhaust, after it comes through the turbo, goes into the exhaust pipe, comes out of the exhaust pipe, goes through a DOC, which is actually a heater that's not running all the time. Then it goes into a DPF, a diesel particulate filter. That diesel particulate filter does exactly what it says. It traps all the particulates in a filter. Well, you all know how black diesel is, the carbon that's in it. The DPF is squirted in there. Diesel goes into the DOC, it's ignited, and it burns that filter. That's what a regen is called, is it's burning the particulate matter in that filter, and it's trying to clean it, right? The technology there has actually gotten much better. When these systems first came out back in 2012 and 13, or 10 even, they were horrible, right? You'd plug a DPF in 50,000 miles, and now we can almost go the life of the vehicle, almost 400,000 miles, or I shouldn't say life, but the ownership of our vehicles between 400,000 and 500,000 miles, and we're not plugging DPFs unless we've had some type of fault and the system hasn't recognized it. So that's the problem with all these faults and check engine lights and all the issues we're having with the after treatment system. It registers everything. If we turn the key on and we don't wait for it to go through its startup application, meaning working through the ABS, the computer check, the engine diagnostic, it takes several seconds before you should start the truck. That's because it's doing its own diagnosis. If we just hop in there and just turn the key and just go right to start like you would your car, we're getting multiple check engine lights every morning. Well, our shop can work their way through those problems and decipher it. Even though you may have a check engine light on, we can contact you, or you contact us mainly and say, hey, this is nothing. It showed a low voltage. It showed 11.7 volts because, we may have possibly not waited for the key cycle to go through, or whatever the case may be. But anyway, everyone, we're working through it the best we can. We're stuck with what we've got. I'm not going to sit here and say we have a bad product, because we don't. We have the best product available. We've tried it on Freightliners, Kenworths, Peterbilts. Everyone has almost the same after treatment program, and what I mean by that, Cummins makes virtually all after treatment units for all the manufacturers. The only one that makes their own is Freightliner, and Detroit makes that.
Got it.
And it is, as far as issues go, or check engine lights, it's probably a little better system, but it's heavier. It's double the cost of what the PACCAR product is, because it's one unit instead of two. And there's just, there's issues, there's pros and cons, ebbs and flows with everything. So yeah, I just keep working with us, you guys and gals. We're doing everything we can, and we just appreciate your help and patience. I would love to say it's going to get better, only because maybe with some updates it could. We're not sure. We struggle with the updates anytime we update a vehicle, which anytime we plug into the PACCAR side, we're required to do an update. What we've ran into is in the back end, the engineers aren't thoroughly checking their update creations. And what I mean by that is we've done like 10 updates in one night, and we've realized that the urge to move is disabled in the truck, and we can't reactivate it because the new programming doesn't allow us to activate it. We've also had some that we did 3 one night and didn't know it, but it permanently disabled our PTOs. We couldn't engage our PTOs, Al. And, we don't test our PTOs. When you drive and you park at night and your PTO worked, you don't check it the next morning. It's not a common thing, right? It's not like tires or lights. So, we had one driver that loaded a load of Coors. He was clear out in Sterling. We had another truck that was actually delivering to a salt shed in Sterling. So 2 of the 3 trucks were broke down in Sterling, Colorado, right? And it was miserable. The one we had to do a drop and swap. Luckily, there was another truck with him. We dropped the loaded trailer, which we don't do because of our landing legs. They're not capable of holding that weight. When we do it, it's a special thing, right? It has to be monitored. And anyway, we were able to talk those 2 guys through it. The third truck was a rock trailer, and he was when I say local, he was at least here in Denver. But we had to take all 3 of those trucks. We couldn't figure out why they didn't work. We took all 3 of them back to MHC Kenworth, and they couldn't fix it. They couldn't redo the programming once we finally figured out it was programming. It took 4 days after we did an update that they said was better. So yeah, we're in the technology age, and it's coming faster than maybe some things are programmed for. So anyway, gosh, I'm on my after treatment horse. I better get off. So
yeah, I guess that's what I was just trying to understand it all, Dave. Because when you talk about going from 0.2 to 0.02, and we're having failures at this, like one of the failures when he talked about it heating up, so I'm going to make this temperature up. If we need to heat it up to 500 degrees before the system works, when we burn out a DPF, if the truck gets to like 499, it recognizes that it only got to 499,
and it won't work.
That's how sensitive the system is. So that's and then they're gonna make it even more restrictive. So that's what we're worried about. Is that next step is even going to be harder to reach. And like you mentioned, the exhaust gas recirculation, the EGR. So they're recirculating the gas out of the exhaust. That's
through the engine.
Through the engine. That's one of the pieces there. So there's just so much, but not to get on that government thing, and I know Dave would love to go there too, but that's the standards the government set up for the emissions. And it's such a push, it's ahead of the technology. That's all it comes down to. And we want cleaner air. I mean, absolutely.
Right.
But we don't want to be broke down. We don't want to have a truck that derates and it gives you 4 hours, or it just plain derates and you can barely get it off the side of the road.
We're thrilled to have a 4-hour window to get back to the yard.
Right.
Yeah, the majority of them, it's broke. It's done.
Have you talked with Rick or anybody about what their plans are to get to 0.02? Are we going to have 2 DPF filters, or
it's kind of a?
I don't know yet.
I'll describe it in a simpleton term, kind of, Dave, just because it's so technical. But it's basically the addition of an oven to your truck. That the exhaust will run through the oven and be superheated before it goes into the DPF.
Oh wow!
So it's going to be heavier,
off more,
right? It's going to be heavier. It's going to make the truck heavier. It's another couple hundred pounds. I can't imagine what the maintenance is on something that's designed to run at. And again, like Jim said, I'm going to make this number up, but if we're already heating the exhaust, and I do think we're at 500 degrees.
It's something
plus,
like that, Dave.
Or maybe even 600 when we heat the DPFs.
Yeah.
So this will be hotter than that.
Wow.
Right? I mean, when you're near a truck that, we shouldn't have trucks parked on the side of the road doing a regen. That should never happen, because if they're working properly, they're regenning running down the road. You'll have a light come on the dash, and you can smell it when you come to a stop. Sure. You're like, whoa, something's hot. It smells in the cab here. I mean, you realize
they smoke a little bit too.
Yeah, exactly. And you realize you're doing a regen. That's the proper function of that system. If you get an alert and we're having to park and regen during the day, something's wrong. We should never have that. So could you imagine that new oven? Right? What's that going to do when we're running down the road? Because you can feel the heat. When you stop and get out, you feel the heat from around that truck. It's hot.
Yeah.
The guys will have somewhere to warm their burrito up.
I was going to say, you don't need to stop at a food truck, that's for sure.
Yeah, I know I thought the equipment was like a couple tiers behind us, But are you fighting it, Al, with the
it's
newer loaders and
constant.
stuff?
It's terrible. We're a little bit more fortunate because of the horsepower requirements, and the treatment systems are a little different for larger horsepower engines. But yeah, our mechanics, they'd rather keep an old tractor for 20,000 hours that doesn't have that type of technology on it than get something new.
Absolutely.
And it's tough. I'd classify it as a good old fashioned goat grab half the time.
Right.
Like it's frustrating. And then for me as a business owner and an operator, at the end of the day, it's going to cost us all more money.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Not only the businesses but the consumer.
Yeah.
Yep. That extra 500-pound oven, it's a quarter ton, that's in our business, every ton matters, and so that load of concrete or that pavement in front of your front yard is going to cost somebody more money because of these regulations. And we have a mantra, everything in moderation, nothing in excess, right? We want quality environment and air, but is it really the nice new truck on the road that's causing all the air pollution?
Yeah.
Or is it a combination of things, or is it blowing over from overseas because those guys are cranking,
Right.
crazy power plants with no filters and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I'm don't get me started.
Oh, wow, brother Dave. I'm salivating, man. I got drool running down my chin. You're speaking my language. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, between China and India, they're functioning, building. How am I trying to state that?
Yeah,
they're putting 2 new coal burning plants a week in service, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Between China and India. So, I mean, yeah, just those facts right there. And when you look at the pollution that we're faced with that people don't understand, everyone just comes and points the finger at the US of A when we're one of the cleanest industrialized countries in the world. But you never hear about the others that aren't. And unfortunately, the third world countries that are creating the majority of this pollution, they'll never care about the pollution because they're strictly trying to survive.
Yeah.
They're a poor country. They're burning wood. They're burning dung. They're, doing whatever they can do. It's survival mode. They're not sitting there in their lazy boy at night drinking a beer, watching nightly news going, oh, we're polluting too much. We should do something about that. Yeah. Right? But there's these extremists that, like you said, where's the moderation now?
Yeah.
Why can't we come to a bit of a compromise on that? And what scares us is, you're a native here at Colorado as well as we are, and Colorado is starting to follow all of California's emissions requirements. California stepped up and created CARB, the California Air Research Board, I think it is. California Air, I think it's Research Board. Anyway, someone can correct me on that if that's not right. You know what I'm talking about. And because they didn't think the federal guidelines were strict enough. So now Colorado is following suit. And with the leadership we have here in Colorado, I mean, we are on the brink of big changes here. Do you know the latest joke in California, Al? Not to get back to a dad joke. They're starting to say out there, I hope we don't get as bad as Colorado.
Oh, man. That's terrible.
But the thing is, though, is when will everybody kind of wake up? Like you said, Al, it's the consumer. It's all of us that sooner or later we can't afford anything.
Yeah.
Going to price it right out of our hands.
Yep.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I'll give you guys one more little tidbit on that. It was kind of fun yesterday. A lot of your drivers or the guys know that the quarry didn't have power from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. And it's because we're on an interruptible program where they can turn our power off or curtail our demand, for 4 hours. It never happens at 4 o'clock in the morning. It usually happens about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon when everybody gets home, turns their air conditioners on. Well, we talked to the XL and I said, well, yeah, we were forecasting some significant wind out east at all the windmill generation, and it never came. And so they shut down one of their power plants, anticipating the wind coming, and it never came. And so then they had to go find the power. And it's a good system; it works. But renewable energy is great. But again,
how much?
So they had to curtail somebody to operate, and then the snowball effect of that is, I'm calling you at 4:30 in the morning saying. we don't have power to run, so we're going to be short of inventory for 4 hours, and then triage it, and then that eventually costs one of your drivers a load, or we got to play catch up later, all that kind of stuff, all because of renewable energy.
I mean, the total cost of that. I mean, just your lost revenue, our lost revenue, the driver's income. I mean, that is, I can't even imagine what that costs.
Right.
Yeah, and all because we're predicting Mother Nature.
Right.
I mean, I know we might be pretty good, but
we can't predict a snowstorm to save our butts.
It's going to be windy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They should just put the windmills over at Arcosa where Dale loads, because
Yes,
it's windy there.
it's always windy there.
All right, Al, well, let's jump into your interview. We usually like to start off by learning a little bit about you. If you could just give us a rundown, a bit about your family, how long you've been married, your kids, stuff like that.
Oh, that's great. Well, thanks for having me, guys. This is such a cool opportunity to spread your word, your culture, and maybe somebody gets one of those questions answered, like, who's running this place?
Right.
What's going on around here?
We get that all the time.
Yeah.
We ask each other that.
It's kind of fun. I mean, this area here's my home turf. I went to Adams City High School.
Okay.
We used to roll around here, Colorado native. Grew up in kind of Henderson, down there off of 76 and 88th, and all the farms and onion fields and gravel pits.
Wow.
And so I'm 46 years old now. It's kind of crazy. 22 years married. I got three kids. 17. He'll be on the road here. Well, he's on the road. I don't know if he's all on the road. Sometimes with these teenage kids.
You hope he is.
Yeah, and a 13-year-old and a beautiful 9-year-old daughter.
Nice.
I couldn't be more blessed.
Which one's
kids,
it?
healthy family.
Which ones keeps your hands full the most?
It's a moving target right now. My 17-year-old, he's Mr. Know-it-all, and I'm just really blessed. Got great kids, but the way I grew up and the way teenagers grow up now, it's a whole different world.
It is, Al.
And I love it when my wife or even the kids will be like, "Well, didn't you do that when you were young?" Nope. Not even close. I mean, I didn't have a cell phone until I was, a couple years out of, in work. I mean, I thought that was pretty cool when I had a beeper.
Right.
But
Yeah.
And you said 22 years married?
yeah, 22 years married.
I always
Congratulations.
ask every time, what's the
Yeah.
secret?
Just patience and selflessness. It's contagious.
Yeah.
And you got to make sure when you make those vows, you pick the right one too. There's a lot to do with it. But I'm really blessed. I married a girl from Central New York.
Oh, okay.
And she came out here, was a nanny for a year, and actually was my roommate's sister. And then he used to always give me
I
a hard
married
time.
my roommate's sister too.
Yeah. She, it worked out well, but my mother-in-law is just a great woman. I've got the best mother-in-law, but she was pretty tough in the early years. She used to look across the table and she's like, "You're a college dropout, and how are you going to support my daughter?" And you're in the gravel business. I mean, like, she just had no idea. What she was in for, but
Looking out for her daughter, though, right?
yeah, absolutely.
When you say Central New York, where were you talking about?
Syracuse, New York.
Okay. Yeah.
When I tell everybody I'm going to New York to visit family, they think New York City.
Right.
Central New York's a beautiful place.
Sure is. Yeah,
really
Syracuse is nice.
quiet agricultural town, and it's a pretty cool place.
I grew up in Queens. So,
Okay, so yeah.
Little bit of ways from Syracuse, but so what does a guy like you do in your spare time?
Just a working soul. Work a lot, but what I like to do for fun is just hang out with my kids. We do a lot of snow skiing in the winter, and in the summer we do a lot of water skiing.
Oh, nice.
And it's pretty fun. I really enjoy the water skiing a lot. We still have the original gravel pit from the 1960s right there off of 88th and 76, and it's a little sanctuary for me and my family and our friends and folks. And so it's a pretty cool experience to have a water ski lake, so close to town in the middle of an industrialized.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's good stuff.
Wow, this is bringing back a little bit of a memory. And Jim and Dave, you might remember, but when I was a driver here, you guys let me borrow a truck one day to help build a range for the church that I went to. Well, anyway, I'm trying to remember this guy's name, but he was friends with your family. He ended up being a pilot. I'm trying to remember his name. If it comes to me, I'll bring it up. But yeah, I think he might have. I can't remember the story, but he was friends with your family.
He was helping you at the church, and
he was on the safety team as well. So that's cool. You touched on it, but you said you were a high school dropout, so no college then, right?
Yeah, did I say high school dropout?
No, you said college. Yeah.
I said high school.
Yeah, it's a unique story. I've been, it's kind of crazy. I've been an employee of Albert Frei and Sons for 34 years. So I started technically on the payroll when I was 15, and worked many summers before that. But graduated high school, went to the University of Colorado for 1 year, and right around that time, my dad was getting really sick, and he ended up getting a divorce around the same time, and the company was kind of in a bit of a tailspin, and he needed some help, and so he asked me to come work for him, and so I jumped right in after 1 year of college and started my leadership career at the Rocky Flats pit. I don't know if you guys ever went there back in the day. I think Burnco's up there now,
Right?
But I was one of the founders of that windy, muddy, dreary place. I think it was like just a training ops for my dad. We did okay there, but it wasn't very successful. But I think he did it to break us in and
break you or break you in.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Was that part of the church ranch property?
Yeah.
Now? Is that what it was? Yeah, because I think for your dad, we placed some of the rock around the dam or one of the lakes up there or something I did when I was younger for a summer for your dad, or worked with you guys. Yeah.
What was the guy's name that owned that?
It was Charlie McKay.
Yeah, Charlie McKay.
Yeah,
That's who we did it for.
Yeah, it was Charlie McKay. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think your dad introduced us to Charlie.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah,
Yep.
great guy.
Yes.
Yeah, great guy. Yeah, great family.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So when you did go to college, what did you think you were going to do?
I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew I had to get out of the house, go adventure.
Sure.
Meet people. A lot of times you get into those environments. Those are your lifelong friends that you meet. And unfortunately, I met my wife there. But I was kind of into traveling and adventuring.
Nice.
I toured up into Alaska and went down to New Zealand. And whenever I could get a chance, like, hey, Dad, you mind if I take 3 months off? He's like, what? It was like, but he knew that. You get that, you feel that void of adventure, and you learn adversity through travel and different languages and different foreign places, and so that was kind of my college, and Dad helped provide that for me.
In the back of your head, did you feel like you would end up part of the family business, or?
Yeah, I think it was kind of in my DNA.
Gotcha.
I don't know if we necessarily had a choice though. Dad just. Anything and everything he did it because he wanted to pass this business on to the next generation, and being a part of that and being the oldest son, and so it's I wanted to do it. It was cool. I mean, you walk into these pits and you look around and it's like, wow, look at all these cool
Right.
tools and toys and when you go to work, I mean, you see progress every day,
Right.
and you work outside, and then the people, some of the characters, you guys remember Carrie,
Yeah. Absolutely. Forrest and Carrie.
Yeah.
We had somebody contact us on the podcast he was his nephew, Forrest's nephew,
Yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Forrest. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a listener.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, a driver that is a listener.
Well, we-
Carrie retired now?
Yeah, Carrie's retired. He retired, I think, almost 39, 38 years. This was a couple years back, like
Sure.
in 2019, 20. But, those guys used to be our babysitters.
Yeah.
We didn't have babysitters. When Dad needed to go do something, he'd throw us in the cab of the loader.
Right.
And
Yep.
it was part of the job description for those guys. But you
Carrie must have been one hell of a babysitter.
well, he could be a little cranky.
Just to say at least.
Yeah. but just good guys. And so I fit right into that, and
So Albert Frei and Sons was founded in 1962 on a family farm. Can you tell us how that came about?
Yeah, it's kind of the same place where that little water ski lake's at today. My grandfather immigrated here from Switzerland, sometime shortly after the war, and was just a farmer. Grew roses and beans and corn, and ended up on a little property, and pretty quickly realized that the gravel underneath the farm was worth a lot more than the beans he was growing. And some of the first loads were loads that were hand shoveled by my dad and my uncle into the back of pickups off the side of the bank.
Wow.
And and then they started. Albert Frei and Sons was incorporated in '62, right there at the original gravel pit. You can see the picture of the sign on the website there. And Dad was maybe 14, 15 years old at that time. And then the rest is kind of history. Little tiny plant there, and then they ended up growing into the Hazeltine site, which JFW is really familiar with. Mm-hmm. Back then, our biggest customer was the Owens Brothers family, and I used to load the old, nice Peterbilt white trucks. When there was about 5 of them, running around and as a loader operator, and then just kept growing. We ended up in Pit 7, and one time there were five or six plants around all of Henderson and Adams County.
Awesome.
Yeah, I first met Kerry. I think he loaded me a couple of times, but I went around the back of the sand pile, Al, and got stuck and had to have Kerry pull me out, and man, he was not happy.
Yeah.
He's like, here's the chain, you hook it up and don't go here anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And I was 21 maybe, something like that, but super nice guy. He just was like, he's just doing his job and great at it,
Yeah.
And then I remember going to the original property on 88 there, and there was still some material left in one of the tandems, and pulled on the scale, and I popped the tailgate accidentally on the tandem, and had to shovel the dirt off the scale, and the I don't even remember who the scale lady was. She was so nice. She goes, "Oh, thank you so much. Usually you guys leave it for me to shovel." And I'm like, "Oh my God, it seemed like she was like 70 there, And so have great history, Al. Yeah.
So we understand you have 3 brothers and 1 sister, Ben, Joe, Lisa, and Tommy. Are they all part of the family business?
Yeah, it's a miracle. We're third generation. You just maybe heard the statistics of family businesses. Getting to the third generation, but we all get along for the most part. And my dad kind of really helped set that up. He steered us into different spheres of influence, we call it. So
gotcha.
Technically, I'm president and general manager or whatever you want to call it, but we're not too big on titles. But Joe does a lot of the sales, coordination, dispatch type of stuff, and then my sister's part-time. She helps out with our payroll. Tommy he's the young one of the buck, of the group, and he runs around, and he's been at the quarry with me in operations for almost, he was up there for 10 years, and then for the last 4 years we moved him down in the office, and he's kind of understudying with Joe, learning the ropes of dispatch and sales and customer relations. And then Ben kind of runs the Adams County operations and does kind of a lot of the banking, insurance type of work. But yeah, we're all in the business every day.
Gotcha.
They'd be hard to replace.
Right.
Finding people you can trust, and
Right.
It's a blessing to work together. Sometimes we don't like the Saturday picnics all the time, but we still get together on the holidays, and everybody still cares for each other.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Good. And that's hard too. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So what about the 4th generation? Are your kids and like your nieces and nephews interested, or what's that shaping up to be like?
Yeah, my oldest, I think he's going to be either a lawyer or a used car salesman.
Okay.
He seems to be interested. My middle boy's got a problem-solving engineering kind of mindset, and same thing with my daughter. She's very engaged in everything she does. They're the oldest of the nieces and nephews.
Gotcha.
So there's a pretty big gap there with the kids, and then Joe's got 2 kids and Lisa's got 2, but that's it for the next generation. Some of our generation too is some of our employees. Now, Forrest Colbeck, the senior senior guy that you guys all know, he retired. Now his son's pushing 20 plus years working for us.
Didn't know that.
And that's Forrest Colbeck Jr. And now I think his boy's going to be working at some point. And it's a tough industry and a tough business. I'm not quite like my dad. I mean, I tried hiring my son for one summer, and my sister's like, "Oh, you can't. He's 14 years old, and the occupational safety hazard MSHA says you can't work at a mine site until you're 18." I'm like, you're
not hiring miners.
Yeah, he's not a miner. He's family. And so it's a different world. It's a dangerous occupation. So I hope that they want to do it. I don't know if they will.
Gotcha. Time will tell.
Yeah, that was kind of my question, Al. I mean, do you want to see that? I mean, you just kind of answered that. You want to see that. Is that you'd love to continue, right? I mean, like you just said, it's a hard business, right? So yeah, I would think that would be awesome to have it continue.
I'd love to see it, and we're trying to build structure and strategies and plans to give them the opportunity. But you never know, and I want it to be their choice. I like to. I mean, it wasn't necessarily all my choice to come in when I did. And my yoke can be a little heavy maybe because of that. But I want it to be theirs.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
Very cool. Super Dave, this was your question, and it's awesome. Do you want to go ahead and ask it?
Yeah. So you. What inspired your dad, I guess, or your grandfather, to move from the abundant riverbed gravel deposits? I mean, that area of Colorado along the river there it's literally a gold mine. To move up into the mountains and buy some mountain property and start hard rock mining.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's probably one of the coolest stories in our industry. And all the credit goes to my dad. You talk about gold mine. One of the biggest questions we get at the quarry is, you find any gold up there? And there's no gold at the quarry. I can confirm that. I've checked.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. And, but Dad used to always say, I mine gold, it's just a different color. So, in the 80s, there's abundant gravel everywhere. You could land on a farm for a reasonable price and have a couple 100 acres, and the pit would be there for 10, 15 years, and it was a good investment, and the regulation was somewhat, easy to deal with, but he had the foresight to realize it wasn't going to last forever. And he watched, almost 5 companies in the 70s and 80s, the Cooley family and the Western Mobiles, the Flatirons companies, the Brandon companies, all try and permit new hard rock quarries on the Front Range in Boulder County and Jefferson County. And they all spent millions of dollars in the 70s and 80s and failed. North Table Mountain's the best rock in the entire state of Colorado. And somebody owned the whole thing, and they couldn't get it permitted. And so he said, you know what? I'm going to give this a shot. And he went one county to the west. So literally the Clear Creek County, Jefferson County lines right there at US 6 and 119. And, started looking around on the geological maps and the transportation corridors and said, that's a good site for a quarry. The Wallstrom quarry was permitted in 1983. It's really the last greenfield quarry site permitted in the Front Range. Greenfield means kind of like a virgin or undisturbed quarry type place, and originally it was 100 acres. I still have the deed on my wall in my office.
Oh, that's cool.
He bought it from a nice lady from California. Didn't have any money. Put a note on it with a deed of trust on the land and no hard rock experience, any of that.
Wow.
And then back then in the 70s, everybody thought he's crazy. Why would you go clear that far into Clear Creek County? It's too expensive to truck it down the road, and you've never set off a blast before in your life, and where are you going to find people to work? And it's just not going to work. And probably for the first 10, 15 years of that quarry, it was a struggle. To make a living, and lots of education, there's probably mistakes that he learned from. And, so he got it permitted, started mining, and now the rest is kind of history. And it's probably, single-handedly the most important thing that happened to our company and our business, and it's hard to believe now. We're actually, depending on the year, we're probably the top 50 crushed stone producer in the United States.
Wow.
With one quarry.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We produce about last year over the scale there was 3.9 million tons that went over the scale last year. It's the biggest tonnage year ever. And I think you got one of your questions too is how many tons have we extracted out of there
year to date or life to date? Yeah.
I can't answer that accurately. No. I think it's probably more somewhere in tune of 40 to 50 million tons.
Wow. That's crazy. I like to call, I always say Fry Pit 6 is the Mecca. When I was driving, I would love going there just because you're getting in the mountains, you got the canyon to come down, which I'm scared of now, but back then I'd still take it. Yeah. But, you might run into, I remember going up to level 2 one day and I'm waiting to get loaded and here comes this herd of bighorn sheep.
Yeah.
It's just so cool. And literally, those days, if there's nobody in line, you go run your first or second round and you cruise in there, your truck doesn't even stop. Mm-hmm. You could get loaded in 30 seconds, be in and out in less than 5 minutes. And to me, it's just the Mecca.
A modern marvel.
I love
state of the art.
Love that place.
Beautiful.
So. Is there a sheriff's range up over there or something?
There's like a law enforcement training facility up there in the back. Gotcha. Clear Creek County Sheriff leases a little piece of ground, and they do all their
very cool
law enforcement training. One time there was a Black Hawk helicopter that flew over the quarry and went over there. I'm like, what the heck's going on? And there's guys rappelling off of ropes. And like they're taking out the bighorn sheep or something. I don't know what the heck's going on, but they share that sometimes with the Denver SWAT team and different law enforcement agencies. It's a cool little spot because it's tucked up there, and they can do their stuff to make sure that they're trained well and
very cool.
keep the world safe out there.
Nice. What's the most produced product up there?
Yeah, you guys know it better than anybody. It's
3/4 washed rock.
Yeah, 67 3/4 washed rock. That's the big thing. That was a big move for us when we started washing rock up there. Yeah. Back in the days it was ready mix concrete, and really there weren't many people that washed crushed stone. And we kind of took the leap and started washing it, and then put it in the bins to keep it really clean. And ready mix concrete came to us finally and said, we want to switch all your plants or all of their plants to your washed stone. I'm like, oh my Lord, how are we going to do this? And just one step at a time. But those bins are pretty cool. That's another thing my dad did. The original asphalt bins that you guys load out of, those came out of an old coal mine in Louisville, Colorado.
Oh, wow.
And Dad tore them down, brought them up there. It took them about 10 years to build. But they got them going. And so the whole bin concept is the same thing. We're 22 miles round trip further away from our competition to bring our product into the market. So how do you get cost effective haul rates, or better haul rates than my competition, right, guys?
Right.
And, so you got to make sure that these freight partners have their max gross weight every load, and that they're loaded efficiently and quickly, and that they can turn their loads really quick. Versus, we've all been a part of it. Other competition or other sites get loaded by the loader operator. Kerry had a bad day, or he doesn't like you, he overloads you, and then you got to go trim, and then you trim too much, and you're like, well, I got to go to Sterling for this load, so maybe I'm going to go back and get the extra 2,000 pounds,
right?
And then he overloads you again, and it's just a vicious circle. Or you don't go back and get that little bit more, and cost you money and time. With the bins, there's very little of that, and so those bins are pretty pioneering. And again, all the credit goes to my dad. I just get to grow the vision of what he did.
So innovative, like he's a pioneer for real.
Right. That part's revolutionary because you go to Morrison, it's the same bins we hauled out 40 years ago. They suck. So
worst.
a pat on your back, Al, because it's amazing. You've continued to grow instead of just stayed stagnant with that's okay.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been okay with you guys. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
What's the most unusual request for material or application for material?
Yeah, that's a good question. We one time we loaded it had to have been a 29, 30 ton boulder.
Wow.
One rock on a low boy, and it's like, well, what are they going to do with that? Some rich guy had a landscaper, and he literally put it in a swimming pool. And we just wanted a big boulder to jump off of.
Wow.
I'm like, wow. Hey,
I guess if you got the money, that's cool.
hey, yeah. And we were okay with it too, because those big rocks are sometimes a pain, and they cost a lot to break up. It's like, yeah, we'll load up. So we took two of the biggest loaders, picked it up, the low boy backed underneath it and set it down, and so we do fun stuff like that. And probably the other one is every once in a while you get these guys that come in, and this guy showed up in like a little Honda hatchback with just some buckets in the back, and he's like, hey, can I buy some gravel? Can you have your guys shovel it in the back of my hatchback in buckets? Like, here, give me the buckets. We'll fill them up.
No charge. Just get out of here.
Yeah. A lot of people. Our Boulder business does really well. A lot of people are selective on color, size. Different types of things like that. You guys may. The drivers out there may really appreciate all those Stonemen that I've been quietly building in the tarping area. Have you guys seen those?
Yeah.
Those are called a Nook Shooks.
Nook Shooks.
And when in my travels up in the Northwest Territories, the natives set these piles of rock men up. It's not like a rock cairn like you see when you're hiking the mountains around here.
Right.
I mean, they're big ones, and they set them up in the tundra. And when the caribou migrate, they channel them all in, and then they harvest the weak caribou for their tribes and stuff like that. And so, but it's a rock man. I mean, how does that not fit perfectly in a quarry? And and so that's what those little rock guys are.
That's very cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
How many loaders do you have on site at Frei Pit 6? And how many loaders does AFS have total?
Too many, especially ones with DPFs and yeah.
We like to call that technology challenged.
Yeah.
Technologically challenged.
So we've got at the quarry, we've got 4 kind of load out loaders on the second and third level for the ripraps and bases and kind of floater loaders that do different various things, and then the big loaders are up on the benches. So there's like 9-10 loaders, up at the quarry. Company wide, it's probably pushing 20 loaders. Wow. But the biggest loader again is those bins. You think about good ways to minimize and impacts to the environment.
Right.
Yeah.
And air pollution. Well, you don't want to put this on all operators, but those bins load out about 2 million tons of material a year.
Wow.
With no diesel fuel.
Right.
Right.
No moving parts, any of that. It takes a lot to get there once you start, but those are types of improvements that we like to tout. One of our wheel loaders, actually, I call it a Prius of wheel loaders. It's not a battery operated wheel loader, but it's a hybrid. Wow. And instead of the traditional drivetrain where the engine puts it into the drivetrain and then all the hydraulics and transmissions, it has an engine that has a generator and then an electric motor that drives the rest of the drivetrain. And so the motor is running basically at full throttle, full RPMs the whole time, running the generator, and then the electric motor, and so it's very efficient in fuel. And then of course it's very efficient with air pollution because it's running full time. It's in diesel world, you guys know better than anybody. It's the lulls that are so hard on these emission controls versus if you can just run it hot and hard all the time, it's actually more efficient to run it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is that a Cat, a Komatsu?
Yeah, that's Caterpillar. Those are the 988Ks that are up there on the load out level. It's amazing.
I know Caterpillar. I feel they've got a leg up on the electric side of it because they've been running electric motors on their, I call them the wheel ends, for years with the ukes in mines and stuff like that because they actually are more efficient. I mean, that was something that the government wasn't demanding those changes. Caterpillar created them because it was better, and this was 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But I'm sure this is, has the technology of today, not 20 years ago, but yeah.
Yeah, we've ran across that same thing, Al, and we've asked a couple of people because they've offered to retrofit some of our trucks to electric rear ends with like a generator, but they want to put something else on it to run the generator. And we're like, well, why can't our engine just sit there and idle or idle it up and run that generator all day? What kind of fuel mileage and less pollution does that create? And they're like, well, that's a good idea, but that doesn't meet the government standard of 0.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, but we just took a step from, I don't know, 6 miles a gallon or 7 miles a gallon to what? 15, 20?
Right.
And we're running an electric motor, and we're, just like you said, we're more efficient. Let's make that step and see what we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about owning your own trucks, Al? Delivering your own material? That's got to be a good idea.
We've talked about it over the years, but it always falls into the hat of, kind of just do what you do best. We're miners and rock crushers, and, sometimes you look at all of the different jobs that we deliver to, and you think, well, we could make more money if we delivered it to, or we could have more control over it. But at the end of the day, we're good miners. The trucking industry and the freight partners that come out of our sites is a fascinating world for me personally. I think it's one of the most underrated parts of our industry that people don't recognize. What freight companies like JFW do for our sites. I mean, you guys are basically our salesman, our delivery, our safety guy, all tied in one. And I mean, we all make a good living, but I have a lot of just empathy for the industry because it's not the most lucrative business, and it's so competitive that it'd be hard to compete. But I look at our partners, and these guys know how to do it, and they make a good living, and they make it lucrative because they've been doing it for so long. They have history and tenure and culture. I mean, I wake up in the morning and all I have to worry about is my guys behind my gate, and I can control it and regulate it, and good people. You guys, these freight guys are out on the road. We talk about Bashu. He's running all around now doing parts runs and stuff like that. He's got the most dangerous job on my payroll. Is driving out on the roads. And it's the same thing with the trucks, but he's driving a little pickup. You guys are driving, a fully loaded 18-wheeler at its gross weight, 5-6 roads, 400,000 miles. I can only imagine the mileage you have under your belt, Dave. I mean, it's crazy. But, and then you get to somebody's job site, and then you got to raise your trailer 40 feet in the air, 5 or 6 times, and I mean, it's just wild that the things that are out of your control out on the world. And so that's a deterrent for us, I couldn't sleep at night. I don't know how you guys do it.
Sometimes we don't.
Yeah. It's called exhaustion.
Yeah. Those diesel fumes, sometimes get you right where you need to get, wake you up in the morning. Yeah.
Like the song said, diesel in our veins.
But, I mean, even the over-the-road guys, people in this country have no idea what makes this world go round. Right. And in my mind, it starts with the trucking industry. Yeah. And, these goods and services have to be delivered somewhere. And it's frustrating because, and it's a part of our culture when we're trying to deliver product and work with our freight partners. We have to be competitive to deliver our product, but we try and do everything in our authority to make sure that, our partners are making money. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, if our freight partners aren't making money, we're not making money. And so we have to be competitive, but we really pride ourselves on trying to take care of these freight guys to the best of their ability, because it's so competitive and it's not right, And so it's been somewhat of our culture to try and change that, at least in the aggregate world.
Sure.
It's hard, everybody gets mad at FedEx and UPS and the Postal Service, but they're moving product around these freightways. It's not the little old mailman that's the problem. It's the concept of trying to get this stuff delivered from place to place to place, and it doesn't happen without truckers.
Right.
And the condition of the roads, the condition of the road is not because of the truck on the road. All the big rigs damage the roads. No, it's because they haven't fixed them in 15 years. Right. And they need those trucks to deliver the product to fix the road. It's a vicious circle, and it's all about interpretation.
You're pushing politics. You're about to cross that line, Al.
Yeah. Dave hates talking about the road.
Yeah. So we do have one truck and trailer, and it's a little tiny trailer that we pull behind our pickup truck. to take samples of material to the materials lab. So that's about as far as we're going for getting into the freight industry.
Do you feel it's important to have qualified drivers from your freight partners only up at Frei Pit 6?
Oh, I think that's in your guys' wheelhouse. I think qualified drivers really should apply to everybody on the road.
Right.
And if you're qualified enough to drive that truck up Genesee and down the canyon, you're more than welcome at the Frei Quarry anytime.
Nice. And I'm sure you've seen some things, guys driving off the scale or hitting a caisson or something like that. I mean, what what kind of impact does that have on your production if somebody, we had accidents up there we've been ran into. I mean, we've created some problems. So how does that affect your day?
It's problematic sometimes. I've only thrown my hard hat once.
You're kind, Al.
Yeah.
You're very kind.
I was standing at the silos there, and I was, watching the material come out of the bins and watching this guy get loaded, and of course his tailgate popped. And when a guy drops the tailgate, it was a belly dump.
Oh man.
And so his belly dump pops. So now there's 23 tons of material on the scale.
Yeah.
And I look over at the driver, and he's got his head hunched over the wheel, staring at a book.
Oh.
And I was so mad at him because now it backs everything up. We have to clean it all up and stuff like that. That's a part of everyday business. And thankfully, we do pretty well with the flow and managing, little issues like that. We don't have too much trouble. I think, for your drivers out there, frankly, there's a lot of people that got a lot of respect for JFW up there.
Nice.
They know the systems. I think really up there, it's just about being patient. Sometimes if you get in a queue, and it's 3 deep and you're like, oh, this isn't going to be good. Or sometimes in the morning when it's chaotic, when everybody's coming from the yards all to one spot on that first round.
Yeah.
But the guys got it figured out. And if you're just patient and you're aware and you're awake, it's tight quarters and lots going on. That's really what and then, listening to what's going on the radio, listening to, having the right, making sure, up there, the radio is pretty important.
Yes.
Sure is.
Because there's not many wide open spaces, and, the doghouse for the bins is on the backside. So, people can't really see where you're at, and they load by the radio. So that's important to have the right equipment.
The radios are, not to interrupt you, Al, the radio's our biggest challenge when we have a new driver.
I was just going to say that,
And
Dave.
it's more so a new driver that's new to our industry.
Right.
Right? Because a road driver, he may be more than capable of driving, getting the job done, and we can teach him to dump the trailer and whatnot. But to put him up there at that facility in that location, you're right. You need to pay 100% attention to that radio because things are happening fast. And you almost, if you're a slow processor, you're listening like, is he talking to me?
Yeah.
Is that for me? And
a Nepalese accent doesn't help either.
Yeah. So it's all good. But we take the time. Anyone that starts here, we have a 2-week training program. You ride or train with our trainer for 1 week, and then we put you in your truck for the second week, and you follow that trainer around. And Pit 6 is definitely our list, right? We make sure that driver's up there. We make sure they're trained and whatnot, and they know how to navigate that facility.
Yeah.
And it's funny, Al, because I know we're all in basically the same industry, but yesterday when you called and said the power was out, some of the guys we couldn't stop. We diverted some of the guys. But our biggest word we used was, and I joked with everybody yesterday, is put on your patience pants. And just be patient up there. And that's the word you use several times just now is just be patient. And then we associate that patience with speed because speed kills. Just slow the hell down, relax, and it'll work out. And we didn't, unless you heard something, Jam, being down there, there wasn't really anything that went on yesterday morning.
Yeah, we didn't hear anything on the radio, didn't hear anything.
It was
no
good.
chatter from dispatch.
It really went pretty smoothly.
Right.
Yeah, but everybody was, hopefully they had patience and we just worked together. So it's that patience piece is so important. Al, you're right. Absolutely.
But I got to say, when you guys hit on all cylinders up there, you rock it.
Yeah. No pun intended.
No pun intended. This was years ago, and I know you probably look at your numbers all the time, but it was a busy summer day. I was up there early because we were busy. We had all kinds of loads going everywhere, but and of course you hold on to your tickets all day. I probably loaded at about, I don't know, 10 to 5 maybe. You guys were open early. I got up there late. You stayed open late just for us, and I got up there about 4:30 that afternoon, and I had pretty close to 700 tickets between my first one and my last one.
Wow.
In one day.
Oh, man.
That's impressive.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yep.
Al, is there a way to install a drip pan or a tray to keep the water off of trucks?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a tough task to tackle. You know, we put 1,000-ton of washed rock up in the air, and then we want the trucks to drive underneath it. And you know, water's pretty good with gravity, and it comes down. And you know, and you guys have these beautiful red trucks, and that stained water just doesn't look good. I see it everywhere. I'm like, geez, well, I know where he's been hauling all day. So we actually have some up there, and then the wintertime is a real big challenge too. So we can put these drains, but then they freeze over the night. And so we've made a lot of improvements, and we've got a drain, and it works pretty good in the summer. We need to refine it a little bit. And it's kind of a balance of figuring that out. We're going to have you guys up for a field trip, and maybe you guys can give me some pointers and how we can do that. But trying to figure out how to get water out of a clamshell gate that it's not like a cookie maker where you can have a little cup and some rubber clamps and it stops dripping.
Right, you just can't add a piece of rubber weather strip and still load tens of thousands of tons across the rubber and make it last.
I was thinking a while ago, Al, because I know you called and told Dave that you hate seeing that on the trucks. I was like, I wonder, except for the maintenance side of it, if you could just put a strong fan up there. It just needs to be 3 foot that way.
Yeah.
Right. If it'll just blow it 3 feet that way, not on the hood, we'd be good. So, funny stuff.
How many acres are permitted up there, and how many more acres are you trying to permit?
This is a busy month for me. Frankly, this is my Super Bowl. We've got the original quarry was 100 acres, and in 2002 we amended that permit now to about 300 acres, and that's the current quarry today.
Wow!
And 2 weeks from yesterday, Tuesday, I go before the Clear Creek County Board of County Commissioners to get approval to add another 200 acres of rock. And so everyone's like, well, why do you need that much more? And over the years we've been mining and mining and mining. 40 million tons is a lot of rock. And, back in the 90s and the 2000s, the specifications for product was a lot different. And, what happened was when I did that amendment in 2000, it was the same rock we were mining in the 90s, but the specifications have changed. And so now we're having a hard time meeting some of these specifications, for our largest customer, Brandon. That's why they're hauling material from Fairplay. Because that's really good quality material, and they bring it all the way down into town to do these really high spec CDOT jobs that we can't do. I've tried everything, but I can't change the rock. And so we've got a little bit of an imbalance there, and we're trying to permit some more high quality material. And thankfully we have it, because my dad, again, when he was growing the business, anytime a piece of property came up for sale anywhere around the quarry, he bought it, even if it was 2 or 3 parcels past. He knew that someday he was going to get those two in the middle.
The connection.
And so thankfully we've got the ground, and so we're up to about there's about 3,000 acres up there now that's under Frei control, and it serves many purposes. One for reserves, but the idea of having a buffer around an industrious site like that is
brilliant.
Is priceless.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where we're headed. If we get this. If we get this permit approved in the 21st of March, some prayers out there for all the truckers, man. We want to shield that place with some angels this month, all the time. But
absolutely.
It's pretty important to get this, because if we get this, it will set the trajectory of our family for legacy business, where we got quality material, we've got all the buffer built, we've got all the infrastructure. I've been building that plant equipment for the last 20 years, and it's finally. The puzzle piece is just about, complete. It's like, well, someday I'll fix that. Someday I'll fix that. Someday, now it's kind of done. Now I get this quality rock where I can start selling to my customers whatever they need to do their job.
Nice.
And what do you think the odds of the Clear Creek County Commissioners approving that, RL. I mean, we talk politics, right? We've almost skirted politics, even though we've talked politics today. But I mean, we know what we're facing in Adams County. I know you know what we're facing in Adams County. Is Clear Creek County a little friendlier? Have they been better? Or, I mean, you know what a lot of people don't understand, and even I think the county commissioners don't understand, like in Adams County here in the next, I think, 30 days, they're redoing their whole fairgrounds. Well, Brandon Companies is providing all the material for free. JFW is providing all the trucking for free, and it's thousands of dollars of material. It's thousands in trucking. We're just doing that as gratis. We're like, hey, we're friendly neighbors here, and it's not that we want something for it. The point is, it's a relationship. We're a necessity. We need their assistance with future endeavors. And I mean, right now, I don't like to say the words, but to a degree, our businesses are under attack.
100%.
By our leadership. Mm-hmm. And people, you know, I'm getting off in the weeds here, but my son went to a car show Saturday morning at Flatirons Church up in Lafayette. It's a car show, right? There's a lot of V8 gas guzzling fast cars there. After the show started, 30 minutes later, a dozen electric cars showed up and protested the car show at the church.
Wow.
So we're living in an environment that people don't even like our cars anymore, right? We're so divided far left and we're so divided far right, you know, and the protesters were only there for about 20 minutes and they knew to get their butts out of there.
Because their car was going to run out of charge.
Well, and I think some manhandling was about to take action.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So anyway, I'm getting off in the weeds. I don't want to change my question there, but, you know, I know as well through the years, just because of your family and your business, what you've provided for free to schools and to, I'll say, government entities, you know, meaning Clear Creek, meaning Adams County, meaning all of those others, you've donated along the way too. And that's never to get, you know, my hand washes yours, or, you know, one hand washes the other, however all that goes.
It's because you're fortunate enough you can.
Right? And it's to prove you're a good neighbor. We are a good business. We are a necessity. You know, when COVID hit, both of our businesses were essential. Right? Why is that? They need infrastructure.
Yeah.
It needs to continue, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, back to my question. I mean, do you have a good feeling? Are you hopeful?
Yeah, you know, with the good Lord's blessing, I think we got a good chance.
Good,
you know?
good.
And you know, it's back to what you say. The trouble with today's culture is, you know, don't get me wrong. Everybody believes in property rights, you know, and the get off my lawn type of personality, you know, is somewhat tried and true. You know, we work hard for what we have. You know, this just wasn't given to me, and you know, everybody's earned it. And so when somebody's trying to tell you what to do with your property or your equipment, you know, it's really hard. And but doing business like that, not very successful anymore. So we have to start to, you know, change our thinking a little bit, and that's when you start to say, well, the best way for an industry like ours is you got to get involved with the community. You got to understand what the community is saying, because when people adopt your industry or your business as a part of your community, it's a lot easier for those decision makers to support whatever you're trying to do, because the few minority of objectors have such a loud voice in these meetings. You know,
that is so well put.
And it's just frustrating. And you know, the little old lady that, well, you know, I don't like the diesel smoke in the morning next to your shop. Well, you know, when did you move here? You know, like that diesel shop's been there for 30 years, and you came here 10 years ago now, and now you're complaining that I want to put another bay in my shop and add 10 more trucks in my outdoor storage. You know, no, hold on. And the decision makers have to do that, but they always try and make everybody happy all the time. It's never going to happen.
No.
But if you have that arrow in your quiver that says, you know what? The school district got their brand new turf field, and now 10 members of the community, you know, kids play in that field. Or, you know, the mine remediation project way up in the back of the woods, you know, wouldn't have got done if we wouldn't have donated the material, and the water quality's better because of that donation. You know, all of those things, they start to add up. So it's a real art. And you guys were very gracious to give us a support letter for our project, you know, and we kind of set that stuff out there. And you know, you have to tell your own story, which is a bummer, especially the good stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And to offset. So in our application, we have over 200 plus support letters
Oh,
wow.
that is fantastic.
and 20 objector letters.
Really?
The 20 objector letters are all the same letter, all signed by the same folks, And so it's
the chain letter, right? Yeah.
So good, with the blessing, hopefully we'll get that, and there'll be a quarry for you guys to haul aggregate out of there for the next 100 years if we're
Nice.
successful
That's
with
awesome.
this.
Nice.
Well, our prayers or thoughts or hopes, however you want to state it, is with you, Al, because
Yep.
we need businesses like yours. You just said that. Yeah, it's important for the future.
Yeah. You guys ever do any hunting up there?
It's funny. Part of this amendment for our permit, we had the CPW up there and talking about bighorn sheep. Bighorn sheep are, the hot button of the area.
Right.
And so, in essence, we took a kind of a problem area and said, well, you can't expand the mine. It's going to ruin the bighorn sheep habitat. And we flipped it. It's like, no, we're creating bighorn sheep habitat. And they're comfortable there. And we've documented the whole thing. And CPW came back and they said, everything you guys are doing is pretty good. We agree with that. But you don't allow hunting for bighorn, the state mammal,
Right.
And there's only a few tags they give out in the state. But
They're hard to get.
But what's ironic is the few tags that they get, all the guys kind of call, say, hey, can we hunt your land? I said, well, it's kind of a problem hunting inside the quarry permit boundary because
Right.
of
Yeah.
Henshaw and stuff like that.
Right.
But, we go the extra step now. When these guys call, we say, hey, here's where they are. If you get one that's on the peripheral of the mine, just let us know. We'll help you, do your
Go
thing.
get it.
And so, yeah, we allowed hunting. There was two big trophy rams harvested off the quarry property last year. As far as other hunting, deer and elk, there's good deer population there. But I always joke with my brothers, they're the killers, I'm the catchers. I'm more of a fisherman, they're the hunters. So they hunt the deer and elk, and they bring some of their cronies up. But there's good population
Very
of deer
cool.
up there too.
Oh, nice. Has your family ever discussed selling because it's a hard business?
Oh, sure. My dad used to always say, for every bad day, there's 2 good days.
I like that.
And it's a tough business, and it's getting harder and harder in the consolidation. Not so much the consolidation. I think it's been good for the industry, but the regulators don't have many more people to pick on.
Yeah.
And that's one of the hardest parts. The things I don't like doing is dealing with the regulators. I mean, you guys deal with it on the road every day, and but the amount of work and energy that gets put into compliance, which is good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining about it, but it's tiring, and you just that's hard. The employment and HR stuff these days. The safety compliance is tough. So we struggle with all that stuff, and then the family matters. I try and keep all my customers happy all the time and all my community, but trying to keep my family happy too. Right. So we talk about it, but right now we're nothing's shaking or moving. We're trying to do some planning right now when it comes to sale, because right now we've got some family health issues and some succession handicaps to in a perfect world I'm pushing 34 years. I got about 10 more year runway, 5-year runway. I'd start to hand the baton off to the next brother.
Right.
But my next 2 brothers they're going to be retiring here pretty soon, related to some health issues, and then my youngest brother Tommy. And so we run into some succession leadership there. We've looked at employee stock option plans, where maybe the best owners of this company are the employees.
Sure.
And that really helps us retain our folks, But, again, it's a God thing.
Yeah.
The Lord will bless us. If we want to get this thing to the next generation, He's going to give us a path to do that,
I love that.
And so, yeah, that's a tough question, because my dad's blessed us with these opportunities, and the last thing I want to do is frig it up. And, I don't look at commas. I look at tons of rock, and I, I'm making a good living, but it's stuff like this that I'm engaged. You send me the dates, I'm not going on the first one. Let's talk about our industry and our, if you sell it, what am I going to do?
Right.
Watch the roses grow.
Right. Exactly, Al.
Tell the story, Alan. It's a good story. You tell about the good things, just like you said. You got to tell them a story, and we all have stories, and it's good. It's a family and hard work.
Yeah.
Speaking of stories, do you have any funny stories of how you had to learn on the fly when creating a state-of-the-art quarry like you got up there?
You know, you sent me that outline, and it's like I got hundreds of stories.
Just tell one.
You know, the Bashu one's great. You know, you guys know Tom Reynolds.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he's the superintendent up there. He's pushing 40 years of service up there. But we used to, I won't talk about it. You know, I used to be in youth group when I was in college, and I led a bunch of middle school kids. I think it's because I was the only one crazy enough to do it. But this was back before 9/11 and the Oklahoma City bombing, and I was like, today, kids, we're going to go blow up prairie dog holes with dynamite. You know, and it's like, what? I had a lot of kids come with me that day, you know, so I go up to the explosive locker at the quarry and get some stuff, and you know, I mean, technically I have a license, and there was no laws broken, you know, and so we go down to the farm in Boulder, and I get like about a golf ball size of kind of like it's like C4, like you see in the movies. Put the little cap in there, and back then you plug the cap into the electrical socket in the wall. So all the kids, I'm like, all right, you guys ready? Fire in a hole, and we plug it in, it goes poof. And they're like, oh, Al, you don't know what you're doing. I was like, oh, yeah. So I go out there, and now I've got like a baseball size. Plug it all in. I was like, you guys ready? Oh, yeah. 3, 2, I plug it in before we even get to 1. Boom! The whole house rumbles. All my roommates are like, "Oh, what are you doing?" Kids are running. You know, I'm winding up the cords as fast as possible, waiting for the law enforcement to come. And you know, those were the good old days. You know, when you could do stuff like that. And
that's hilarious.
You know, that was a fun story. You know, I remember, you know, when I used to load out at the quarry. You know, had a piece of crap wheel loader, a bucket that wouldn't ever level. You know, a radio that was crappy, you know, no air conditioning, dust. And it was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and Tom's on the radio. He's like, Al, can you just give me one more load to get that truck out of there? You know, whatever. And he finally comes down. He's like, I've got a nosebleed. I haven't eaten lunch yet, you know. And he's like, yeah, why don't you take a break? And, you know, it's just stories like that, you know, just kind of hard work and preservation. You know, and building that plant was a really cool accomplishment. That whole plant and that whole system up there was derived from, you know, it's one of my proudest accomplishments to get that done. But everything that I've done wrong in my career and in the plants and stuff like that, like, you know, I'd spend hours sometimes underneath a tail pulley shoveling because the conveyor wasn't designed right. You know, it's like,
right.
Well, when I get to build my plant, I'm going to build everything overkill and put all the right controls and measures to make sure that conveyor doesn't leak, because shoveling is no fun. I took it on as a task and a workout program, but you know, or when we're working on crushers, you know, I burned a lot of crushers up in my time, and we'd spend endless hours at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to get them fixed so we could be running the next day. And,
right.
You know, now our crusher, we have a spare one. So we can do a swap out on a crusher in less than 8 hours up there.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Who'd have thought?
Yeah, and all the cranes and then the technology and the automation. You know, what you guys are doing with your cameras and your trucks, we're kind of doing in the crusher world. You know, when you drive around our sites, you don't see really anybody on the ground.
Right.
It's just kind of magically running, and there's really 1 or 2 guys that aren't running the plant. They're just supervising the computer that's running the plant. And so you can do all these different things, and it's safer, it's more economical, and it's efficient. All those things it's pretty cool. So, you know, all the mistakes I've made, you see them, but now they're in the form of embetterments at the quarry.
Right.
Awesome. Good story. You've kind of answered the rest of these questions. Linda, she did want to say thank you to yourself, the loaders in Bashu at Pit 6. They run like a well-oiled machine. Maria and Jackie are always helpful, and we appreciate them too. So we appreciate you coming on, Al. We got some more to go through here, and hopefully,
James, can I give you one more little tidbit that
you
I
give
wanted
us
you guys to
you can
slide it in there? Yes, about like what could you guys do? I talked about patience, but the other thing that I don't think your drivers know, and you guys know at the quarry there in the wash bins, those are weigh hoppers up there. So we weigh the rock up above the hopper, and then we drop it in your truck. And traditionally, for most drivers, like, well, I can't get a ticket without going over the scale. And so we have a printer box up there. It's called the C-bin printer. So we know exactly what went into that truck, and it's accurate within, you know, a couple hundred pounds.
Yeah.
And so that material goes in there, And your guys are free to go over the scale, especially to really check axles or drive across or make sure that your gross weight's in good shape. But if you know that you get 25 tons and you're under 80 and you can go to that printer box or ask the guys to print the ticket in that C-bin box. And that does two things. It gets you guys out of there faster, but it also doesn't back up the house scale for all the second level stuff.
That is good to know. I don't think anyone knows that, Al.
Al, is that so? At some point, we hit whatever the concrete piece that holds up part of the bend system. Because we cut too short. Is that leading up to that bin or not? Super Dave, I haven't been up there and done that. Is that
No, the C printer is on the outside of the old bin.
Oh, so where we've asked everybody to go,
So-
make the bigger turn.
It is a bigger turn. It's on the way to the house scale. You just stop and get your ticket and then drive right around the house scale.
So you don't even need to get on the scale. Oh, you do. Can we get out of the trucks up there?
No, you just drive right up to the printer box.
Okay.
You get your ticket there. They've printed that ticket based on what was in the weigh hopper when you got loaded,
Got it.
instead of your gross vehicle weight and your tear weight and figuring all that stuff out. So it's a good balance. It's a good tool to have. You know, if there's nobody on the house scale and you want to roll through there, it's good for our customers too, because a lot of material, sometimes maybe you don't get compensated enough because your tear weight's you're heavy that day or light that day. So the customer either got a little less material or a little more material, depending on the tear weights. So when you weigh it in the form of this weigh hopper, you know,
You're paying
It's
exactly.
accurate.
it's
Exactly
absolutely,
it.
and it's legal.
It's based on the material, not our tear weights.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That makes sense.
And so it's a really good system, and it really helped us out because lately there's been a strong demand for second level products. And so all those trucks have to go over the house scale. And so when you guys come in, especially in the morning, you know, once they get comfortable with that printer box, there's no reason why they can't just go there and ask for their ticket out of the C-bin box instead of going to the house scale, because
Awesome.
you know, they're all going to the house scale, and then everybody from the second level is coming in, and it creates a pretty good backup.
Right. And obviously we don't do that because we just don't know about it, right, Al? We haven't been doing that, or do the guys know about it?
I think it's a creature of habit. You know, maybe some of the guys know them, some of them don't, but that'd be something you guys could talk about. They're free to use
Absolutely.
that all the time.
Yeah.
No, we can fix that in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
Guys will love that.
Yeah.
Al, are you okay on time? Are you going to be able to stick
good.
around?
Yeah,
Great.
if you guys want me to stick around, whatever.
No,
Yeah,
absolutely.
would you? Yeah.
Yeah, we'd love
please.
that. All right, moving on to the safety topics of the week. First one is contaminated material. Jim, I think that one was yours. You want to talk on that?
Yeah, just revisiting it. You know, I know several episodes ago we talked about same things we've talked about for years and years, and this is one of them, the contaminated materials. You know, you got to jump in that truck and you got to clean it up. And I think it was last week, maybe we didn't have much snow last week, but we did a lot of salt, and it's the biggest thing to deliver salt to, you know, a concrete plant in the load, or deliver rock inside the, you know, with the salt and all that kind of stuff. And then what we did have happen a few weeks ago is, you know, everybody knows we haul Coors, right? And it's probably, I don't want to give anybody an out, but it's probably not as important as you're totally spotless to load the grain, but you can't load rock or sand or any other product if you're full of grain. And we had a load where we didn't get swept out from Coors, and we hauled a load of salt and squeegee down to one of the sheds, and we dumped it out, and the shed guy goes, I don't want that.
Right. What's that?
What's that? I mean, he didn't order grain from Coors. He ordered salt and squeegee, and we didn't clean out. And I know we've come through a tough time of year, the frozen loads, the temperatures we've had, all that kind of stuff. But we just, you know, part of my final thoughts is doing your job and taking responsibility. You know, later on, hopefully we'll talk about it, but it goes along with some of that stuff about hauling overweight, you know, and I know we'll touch on that here, but yeah, you guys, you have to clean out the loads. You have to, it's a pride thing, you know, and Al just mentioned it. He said, you know, we're the salesman, we see their customer last, we do all that stuff. And as a salesman, he loaded you with clean material, and you took contaminated material to his customer. And that's a pride thing. That's responsibility. That's doing your job, you know?
I mean, how many times do we talk about it, Jim, that we've went out to give you the best opportunity here to be financially successful? We're seasonal. We slow down in the winter. we've went out and we've tried to find more salt hulls, more squeegee work, all of these other things that continue through the winter to keep our fleet busy. So you are successful as well as we are, but we're only successful if you are doing your job. We've went out and done ours. Now the chain is on the next link. You need to do your part. Dispatch needs to do their part. The wash bay and the mechanics are doing their part. I mean, our chain is 50 links long, but we all need to do our part. And we joke about, we love to talk about Bill Belichick here, Al. We're not a fan, but his favorite phrase is do your job. That's all he wants. He is thrilled if you do your job. And it sounds kind of harsh, but it's the fact. If Bashu was up there and he made mistake after mistake after mistake, you'd be like, Bashu, listen, we need to talk. This isn't working the way it's going, right? I mean, once in a while, everything happens, right? Everybody has a bad day. That's how life is. But yeah, I mean, we need to be clean. Those trailers need to be cleaned out. We've provided a broom. We've provided a shovel. There's now a ladder. There's not steps. There's a ladder on the side of the truck to climb in on the side of the trailer. I mean, again, we've done everything in our part. And I don't want to say it's not our fault, right? But to a degree, it's kind of not. We need you to do your job and get in there and clean it out. And it's not like you're shoveling dirt from under or rock from under a conveyor like Al's talking about, and there's this 1,000 pounds or 2,000 pounds or 5,000 pounds of rock you're shoveling. You just need to break the loose stuff off the nose of the trailer and sweep it out. It just needs to be clean. We're not talking hours of labor here. We're talking a 5-minute quick cleanup, and you're good to go. And we've provided that service then. We've done all we can do. You've done a great job. That customer's thrilled. You delivered that load of salt. It's spotless clean, and off we go to the next job. So it's critical. It's critical in what we do for contaminated material.
I think a lot of it is paying attention to the now, because so many times we talk about these guys that are thinking about the next load.
Right.
Oh, well, I got to run up to Fort Lupton and get that load of concrete sand for Plant 12. And it's like, wait a minute, you need to sweep out the salt from this load first.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'll roll right into it because one of the things I was just hit with this morning, we've got a handful of trucks down because of the treatment systems that we're fighting. So we've got drivers in different trucks that's not their assigned truck. And, we just had a driver mention this morning, hey, he got there and fired up the truck and doing his walk around. The gates weren't left open. And what we do, Al, this time of year, we have a switch. We open up the latches on the tailgate. We pull the tailgate to the outside and we close the latch and let the tailgate sit on the outside of the dogs. The reason we do that is we have a rubber seal. So if we get any weather that the moisture runs down the liner of the trailer, gets to that rubber seal, and then the gate is frozen to the trailer. And when we dump, it tears the seal open. Well, then the next thing you know, we're driving down the road and we're breaking windshields. Mm-hmm. We've tried that. It doesn't work well. It's pretty expensive, and it gives us a bad look, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've done everything in our power. We don't have spreader lips on the back of our tailgates. Our tailgates, when they open, that material falls straight to the ground. We've taken and moved our tail lights from that area up to our tailgates, so they're never in the material. I mean, we've designed, just like you're talking about with your plant, we've tried to design that
Here's
trailer.
all the mistakes.
Yeah,
How can we
let's
fix
make
that?
it better. How come every trailer manufacturer puts their lights in the way of the material? We're like, that's silly. Move it to the tailgate, right? We're the only ones that do that. So anyway, yeah, there's all these protocols. So at night, please put your tailgate on the outside of the dogs or the latches, so that rubber seal is protected. You're good to go. You're prepared for the next morning. But here's the next key point. We've on the other side of the street, we've had drivers leave here and they're leaving with their gate on the wrong side of the dogs. They didn't do their pre-trip and walk around. If you are leaving any yard and your tailgate is on the outside of your dogs, you did not do your pre-trip. You did not do it. It's impossible to walk around that trailer and look and see that tailgate is on the wrong side. So our job is relatively easy. We have so many drivers here that are so amazing and do such a phenomenal job. And we talk about it all the time. We want to train, we try and educate, and when we have things like this happen, we sit down as a leadership team and go, well, we failed. What do we need to change? How do we need to drive these points home? How do we change our training? What are we missing? And it's evolution, right? And Al, you were talking about when you design the next plant or whatnot, and you've just kind of touched on it because we asked you about selling or anything like that. And you said, what would you do? For myself, I can't speak for Jim, but this business is a journey. And I'm not ready for the destination, right? The fun part of this business is the journey. It's the people we get to know. It's the lives we touch. It's the businesses we get to work for and the companies and, the facilities like yourself and the all of the things. It's the destination. It's not the journey. And I want to have the best destination there is, right? But that's what fulfills me. It excites me. We talk about just making things better. We want a better truck. We want a better trailer. We want a better customer. We want a better experience. We want more financial freedom for our employees. Everything is just that. It's that journey. It's the next step, right? How are we better? How are we better at everything? Well, you as a human being get better by doing certain things that are required, right? Your water's going to be shut off if you don't pay your water bill. I bet you pay your water bill, right? So we know we need to deliver clean material. We need to sweep that trailer out. So sorry, I'm back on my soapbox again.
But in 90% of the time, you can probably get away with delivering a contaminated load, and it's like putting the shopping cart away. There's no real problem with you delivering it, except you just didn't do your very best, and it wasn't done the right way. That's the problem with that, Dave. And if we have somebody and we find out you lose your safety bonus, or maybe it's some of Al's material, and the guy on the job goes, oh, there's that, it's got shit in it again. Hopefully he's blaming us if it's from us,
right?
You know what I mean? But there's just that it's not the best. He didn't get the best material, and he didn't get the best service from us,
right?
And as we're going down the list,
your decisions affected JFW. Your decisions affected Albert Frei and Son
and his whole family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
There's only one way to do a job, and that's the right way.
Right.
You gotta do it the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It leads you into the next one, the gross weights here, and we have all sorts of little different rules for gross weights and what we do and stuff like that. But Dave talks about giving you the correct tools to load your truck, and lately we've had the experience at Coors that, I've heard that the material's wet and I've heard it's dry and all these excuses, but we're hauling loads out of there 90,000 plus right down the interstate. That's just wrong. Have we gotten away with it? Does it make the driver a tiny bit more money when it's all said and done? Sure, but it's not the right thing. You have gauges in your truck, because the thing is we have other drivers that don't ever do that, run Coors all the time. They don't have a bit of problem. And yet then we have this certain select group of drivers that it seems to be okay. At one point I was even blamed for it because somebody come up and said, hey, I'm overweight, and all I did was laugh and say, where are you going to trim it? I laughed at the situation that we ended up in that.
Right.
Because it shouldn't happen. That's the funny thing of it. How did you get there? You have gauges on your truck. And yes, we can't trim it. It's not like going to pit 6 and going across the street and trim it. You can't just drop.
Or asking where to trim it or anything like that.
Yeah, you can't drop grain.
Once we're loaded at Coors, Al, we're loaded.
Yeah,
there's no backing up.
But you sit on a level area, and it takes roughly 14 minutes. Isn't that about it, Dave, to load you?
14, yep.
And we have gauges on the trucks
and trailers.
And trailers that'll slowly add up and tell you within, I don't know, Chris Beam's good at it. He can probably get it within 1,000 pounds.
Absolutely.
But when you're at 85,000, you don't need to haul out of there at 90,000.
Yeah, you know when you're at 80,000.
Yeah, you want to talk about putting things at risk, taking a load down the highway, the interstate at 90,000, you're risking 150 families.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, Jim. And
you have the big one, and you're 90,000 on the interstate. I mean, we might as well just go look for another job.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a possibility we could lose that contract.
Oh, yeah.
If that, depending on what backlash that would be, we don't know.
Sure.
Right? But we didn't train you to do that.
Nope.
We've never asked you to do it. We've asked you not to do it. Here's where you need to pony up and do the job right.
And by the way, our highest paid drivers do the job the right way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Highest earning drivers.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there is our heavyweight permit, but they're not for the interstate.
Absolutely.
They're not allowed in the canyon anymore. That's a specific permit for doing the job a specific way, and then we have people that not doing it that way either.
Right.
And the thing is if I have the story correct or I know enough about it, that permit was created and lobbied by the milk haulers to haul milk. It had nothing to do with gravel hauling. Right. And we were able to adopt it for ourselves.
It was a default win.
Yep, and we push those, and we've talked about it tons and tons. Yep. We've lightened our trailers and trucks up.
Was that a pun on the tons and tons?
Tons and tons, right? To help the driver and ourselves and, Al's customers and stuff like that to make more money, right? Mm-hmm. But as they get lighter, we've talked to you guys about it, that they become a little bit light duty. Mm-hmm. And we don't allow over a certain amount. 92,000 because it damages the trucks. Mm-hmm. And Al touched along our wonderful roads, Al. At 90,000 plus, we're beating the shit out of our trucks because they weren't made to haul that as such. And so, yeah, it's
our trucks weren't.
Our trucks.
There
weren't,
are trucks out there that are, but our trucks weren't.
Yeah,
they weren't designed.
They're
to
not a
carry
low
that
boy
weight.
truck.
No,
right? So yeah, you guys. So I guess in a roundabout a way, we're without having to go pull heavyweight permits, take away safety bonuses, do all that kind of stuff. We're reminding you guys to do your job and do it correctly, and have some pride in not going down the interstate at 90,000 pounds. That's that. It just doesn't work. And Jam said it too. You're risking lives,
yep.
Right?
And in today's society, if a lawyer gets a hold of that, they will get a hold of everything JFW has and everything you have.
Yep.
It will happen.
Absolutely. Yep. Massive liability. Hey, it's not written down here, but I threw it down just because late yesterday afternoon, and we have a whole outreach program that we haven't finished developing yet, but I've brought it up several times before. We had our first right-hand lane change accident yesterday of the year. Last year we had 4, and we're committed to a program. We've got some things that we're going to be coming out, and Ann was off Monday at our steering committee meeting. She's kind of the one heading that up. But you guys, we've added blind spotter to the truck. We have 6 flashing turn signals. We have mirrors on the hoods. We have mirrors at the top of the door. We have mirrors on the edge of the door. We have windows in the doors. We have everything. We've given every single tool. Yeah, sloped hoods. Yep. Every single tool there is for right turn lane changes. I don't know how else to say it.
Right-hand lane changes.
Right-hand lane changes. Yep. And we had an accident yesterday. Thank goodness there were no injuries. I haven't gotten the information. I would guess we were ticketed.
Yep.
So we were ticketed. The driver was ticketed. Yep. And again, luckily, knock on wood, no injuries. Yeah. We've had a handful of those accidents over the years where we've spun the car out.
Yeah.
We call it the pit maneuver.
Yeah, it wasn't a full pit maneuver.
Yeah, right.
No, but that car shook.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was.
Yeah,
it was close.
I bet that person driving that car,
they
needed an underwear change.
Yep.
When they got to their destination, and they about got to their destination. You know what I mean? We've had a few of those accidents where it's scary. So I can't emphasize it enough. You have to look. You have to be proactive. The program we're about to introduce about that turn signal needs to be on at least 6 flashes before you change lanes. You need to know what car is next to you before you've done it, what car was coming by you. You just need to be so aware of everything in that truck and that almighty blind spot. It is that right front corner of that truck. You have to put air in your seat. You have to look up over that edge. You have to look in front of you. You have to look next to you, behind you. Everything about it, that right-hand lane change, it's going to be the devil of us. It's getting us. I mean, there's our first bite of the year, and I said it. We're in the middle. We've spent 60 days working on this program. We got to get it out there. I mean, we don't want one more accident this year. We have to commit to it, and we have to get better.
Yeah, and the video is so telling of what went on because, for one, the car that was hit, you could see it in the driver's mirror during the video that it was beside him, and he missed it. It got to the front of the truck. He looked several times out his mirror beside him, but never looked forward.
That blind spot.
Never looked over in that blind spot. Never leaned up to double check. And that's what we're talking about. That 6 blinks, at least 6 blinks, gives you the time to look everywhere, over the hood, down the trailer, to do all that stuff. And then I want to mention too that just before that, because the video we play 30 seconds before and 30 seconds after, the driver was upset at a car that changed lanes in front of him, and seemed to be concentrating on that situation. That's the reason he started to get over it. Luckily, it wasn't a quick lane change. It wasn't.
That was probably one of the few things we did correct at the moment, is we were easing into that lane.
Yeah, it saved from spinning the car out.
Right, where those pit maneuvers happen is we take that lane aggressively.
Yep.
And thank goodness this driver didn't do that. Now we need to take this teaching opportunity and teach him a better way to do that. But it's back to doing your job. We all know that's a blind spot. We all need to educate ourselves. This isn't a rookie driver. He's had his license for 6 years, and we need to take this opportunity to educate. But this is what the podcast is about. We need to educate everyone. We need everyone thinking of that. And it's back. Bill Belichick, do your job.
Yeah, it's a pride thing, Dave, too, or it's not really a pride thing. It's being really good at your job, I guess. Because it's like if you drive a truck, a tractor and trailer, you got to be good at backing up, or hopefully you get that way.
Right.
And when you back into a pile perfect or a bend perfect or whatever, that's a skill. You feel good about that. For years, Dave, Super Dave or all Dave, Jam, all of us, we talk about, I missed the bend, or I didn't get back up right. I didn't open a 6-pack, or I need a 6-pack of my backup.
Yeah.
To be able to get in the bend.
Didn't bring my can of backup with me.
Yeah, can of backup, right? But it's like changing a lane. It's the same pride as, okay, I have this huge truck. Can I get it in the next lane without hitting anything?
Yes.
Right? I mean,
you're spot on.
I mean, can I do that?
Yes.
No, we can't.
Yes.
4 times last year we couldn't. 1 time this year we couldn't already.
Right.
And it leads to that public appearance. The no matter how political you want to get, it's how people look at our trucks, our
industry,
people, our brethren,
We're
our
unsafe.
sisters. We're unsafe.
Why are we unsafe? Because we're unsafe.
Yeah.
We just had an accident.
Exactly.
Absolutely. That's where we need to be better.
Yep.
Moving on to tips and tricks from Ray Davis. He wants to talk about liner care. Liner care, we have it pretty nice for the last year.
I think Jam wants to talk about it.
Just trying to move it along a little bit.
You don't want us to preach. You stopped us.
We can keep going. I've been complimented for moving the podcast along, and I've taken
You do a great job.
I've taken that job seriously.
Good job.
Good job. Yeah.
But those are all great points about lane changes, no doubt. I can't wait for you can see I got all my bracelets on now because we're coming out with our own safety bracelet.
Right.
And it's inspired me to wear my other ones.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Yep, that's coming out pretty quick. So I think we're just waiting on the bracelets. And
Yes.
then we're going to
That's it. That's
we'll
where we're
push
at.
out our safety campaign. And it's called Safety Has No Blind Spot. So here we go.
There you go.
Yep.
But tips and tricks from Ray Davis. Liner care. We have had it pretty nice for the last year with the new trailers and liners, but we need to do our part in keeping the liners in good shape. Sweeping your liner and keeping the Z-strip clean on the rocks daily will keep your liner in good shape. You can use a screwdriver to get them rocks unstuck in your Z-strip. And it's important to also get that material that is under the liner at the end of the trailer. If you leave that material under there, it will work its way down further down the liner and make holes. I remember when I first started here, I had a liner with a big hole, and it took forever to clean out my trailer, and I couldn't do salt or golf sand because I couldn't get it completely clean. So it limited me on the things I could do. We have new tools that can fix the holes right away. It's important that if you have a hole, you write it up right away. A small fix is better than a big fix. Once a hole has started, it can be a huge hole in weeks. Don't take it for granted and just think it's okay to leave it. Be better, set the BIHAR, and keep them trailer liners clean. Hope all is well with everyone. Much love and respect always. Ray 0012. Great points, Ray.
Great points.
Yeah, well put.
Yeah.
I mean, he is spot on.
The one thing I want to add at the end of your day, if you want to get that liner cleaned out, and this is something Super Dave told me back in the day, when your trailer is all the way up in the air, your tailgate weighs virtually nothing, right? Because it's on a hinge and it's standing up.
Yeah.
You could put yourself between the gate and your trailer and get a broom or something if your liner's loose and shake all that material out of that liner. that's one of the best things you could do from keeping material from building up
Yeah,
in there.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and I know we've told the story, but like Ed Ritter, he used to love doing the golf loads, and he'd say Mr. Wallet's talking to him, and he's the one that's probably got the most years out of that liner, but he knew it stopped him from doing the specialty loads and getting his loads. I mean, he recognized that, and he was awesome at it. So Ray's right on.
Yep. Do you guys want to do our new segment from Linda, the Dave Ramsey stuff?
Yeah, she's got some good points in here. I like the one here.
Yeah, it won't take very long. So Dave Ramsey Finance Tips brought to you by Linda Frazier. First of all, Linda's donated 10 books. What was the name of the book? Financial Peace University or
Financial Freedom, right?
Financial Freedom.
Yeah.
Anyway, the books are downstairs. This book is designed to help you get out of debt. Dave Ramsey's a Christian finance guy. He's helped, I want to say tens of thousands, if not more people.
I'd say millions.
Hundreds of thousands, millions of people get out of debt, right?
Absolutely.
So the books are in. I know Big Country's got one. Alonzo and Veronica took one home yesterday. So Linda has donated these books. Just come in. There's a couple in the driver's room, and we have them in the dispatch office as well. So first, it starts with a quote: "When you tell your money where to go, you will be amazed at what you can do." Right? And the book starts off with baby steps. Baby step number 1 is start a $1,000 emergency fund. Okay, this money is set aside for real emergencies. Example: car repairs, replace a water heater, dentist visit for a broken tooth. Not you ran out of beer and you need to get more, okay? Some of you may say, well, $1,000 isn't very much money for an emergency fund. You can't get a water heater for $1,000 anymore, I don't think, or a car repair.
Not installed.
Not installed, right? Yeah, so, but that's a good place to start.
It's a baby step.
Yeah. It's a baby step. You'll come back to that emergency fund later in the program and build that sucker up to, 3 months of income or something like that, okay? Once you have the $1,000 emergency fund, you will be surprised how much less stressful money becomes. Then you could start your debt snowball and start paying your debt down. Did you know that Did you know you can direct deposit part of your JFW paycheck into a savings account? It's a great way to save without even trying. If it goes directly to your savings account, you won't see it or miss it. If you send $100 per paycheck to your savings account, you will have your emergency fund before June 1st. Think you can do 100? Think you can't do 100 per paycheck? I challenge you to try it for a month. Start a family budget. So Linda's challenging you to start to save $400 in 1 month, okay, and then $1,000 by June 1st.
That's awesome.
Okay, and that's just 100 per paycheck.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to mention, I don't know if it's in the Dave Ramsey, but we ran across this the other day. Also, for some of you guys, for younger kids, and I'd love to do some more checking, you can start a 401k for your kids, and it's got a word at the end of it, what kind it is. But to a certain age, it's also tax-free for them.
Nice.
And so, it hardly takes anything, and that sets your kids up, and it becomes theirs, but it's something you can participate in and teach your kids.
Absolutely.
So, I'd like to check more into that.
Fantastic. All right, questions from the audience. First question: has JFW ever thought about going union? And this driver wanted to remain anonymous.
Well, there's a lot of history there, Jam. I can kind of touch on the short part of it. We were a union at one time. Very proud of that. My grandfather, both mine and Dave's uncle and family, and it was a pride thing. That's what you belong to, was a union. I believe I don't remember, was it Uncle Paul or Grandpa? Probably Uncle Paul when he was killed.
Probably.
Anyway, we tried to get some death benefits out of the union. He was killed in a car crash abruptly, and the union wouldn't help us out, wouldn't do anything, and there ended up being a lawsuit and stuff over it. So at this point with history, no, Jam, there's a rough feeling there. Sure. When you take pride in something for so many years, you pay into it, and when you're hurting,
they no help.
No help. So there's a family rub there that's old,
right.
And
there's many stories, but more so the one that sticks in my mind, Jim, is the one about the driver in the
engine,
the
right.
3 engines, right?
Yeah.
We had a driver that blew up an engine, and when it blew up the first time, after investigation, it was like, well, listen, you over-revved this engine,
Right.
Back before the stuff we have today.
Sure.
Very easy to do, right? And he's like, oh, no, I didn't do that. Well, we rebuilt the engine and put the driver back in it, and it blew up the second time. Well, Grandpa or Dad or Uncle Paul fired the driver. I mean, we can't have blown engines every week, right? It just not very prosperous, right? And the union made us rehire that guy.
Wow.
And we're like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. The third engine, when it blew, we were done with the union. I mean, on top of the
there was several.
It was just like there was just enough and enough and enough.
Right.
And I mean, so the union would rather jeopardize the livelihoods of all the other families in the company to protect this
that
one
one
guy
guy.
that was a bad apple.
Right.
That's not
sense.
innovation. That's not protection. That's not. It doesn't even make sense.
So better than belonging to a union, you could belong to the JFW family.
There you go.
We try our best to do the right thing, Jim.
Yeah.
Al, are you guys union up there?
No, not union.
Okay,
But
so
that's a
it's-
great saying, man. That's, well, isn't it one family, one name, or
Yeah.
what's your guys'
We have
have a creed.
together.
Yeah,
we just
together.
have together on
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
Yeah, together we are a family.
So same driver asked, have you ever thought about playing the national anthem for intro music? I think we answered that question at the beginning of the
The new
podcast.
intro music.
Yeah, I told the driver, I was like,
Amen, Chuck.
I said, I can't wait to answer this question for you. He's like, well, I think it'll be pretty cool. I'm like, just wait. So,
Yeah, because the anthem is now a dedication to them.
yeah.
It's a tribute.
Yeah,
It really is a
It's a
tribute.
tribute.
Yeah.
We got
Yeah.
Diesel in their veins and
Yeah.
stuff. Dave did a great job writing it. So and the gentleman that sang it did a great
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
because
hey, just a little shout out for that company. That is a business called Song Glorious, like Song Glorious, right?
Right.
It's song and it's glorious. But anyway, I didn't know anything about it, and I started looking for an artist that we could hire here locally. And,
It was a struggle.
and sing the song. Yeah, and there was some pain in it. I mean, it was probably a
The
60.
first few takes were not very good.
Right.
No.
Yeah, and it was probably a 60-day process, right? And when I stumbled upon this song, Glorious, it has been on Shark Tank as a company to invest in and stuff. And I guess my shout out to him is anyone can just write down some words on paper and send it in. You can choose an artist. You just get on their website. You choose an artist for whatever genre, right? You pick a genre, whether you want country, rock, pop, rap, art, whatever. You pick your genre. It gives you a list of artists. You contact that artist and you send them.
Yep.
All you have to do is write down words. And it was funny when I picked this artist, I was able to listen to 3 other songs that he had done, and I'm like, this is
the
our
guy.
guy. And it was just so cool. And what I'm leading up to is, what a special gift to give your wife or your spouse or your kids or whatever, you know what I mean? So I encourage anyone, hey, write down some words. You don't have to write a song. I mean, what he's saying is truly what I wrote.
Right.
I mean, he added I think there was one sentence, and he was able to complete a paragraph for me that I was struggling with, and I loved it. You know what I mean? It was he tagged what I asked for, but everything in there else, that was how I wrote it. That was exactly what I was looking for.
You mentioned, send one in for your wife or something. Have you watched the videos, Dave? Of guys, the wives will get in a car and they just play the
Yes.
song they made and they have no
Yes.
idea, and then
I
all of a
have.
sudden the wife's like
Yes.
crying,
Right.
and just like that's special, man.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
I think that's something, because that's a gift that would last a lifetime.
Forever,
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
More than
you
one
would
life.
have that as a family forever. You could do
Absolutely.
a family song. You could do, all sorts of stuff.
I'm gonna do a fight song. It's fine.
It's pretty cool.
and really, it wasn't that expensive.
$250.
Oh, that's not
I mean,
bad.
when you look at what you spend in roses or cards or some
Right.
other gifts,
I mean,
Right.
how much did you spend on the other artists?
I think it was the same.
I think it was $300 when it was all done, because we tried to do a couple takes.
And you didn't get a song.
Yeah,
No.
exactly. Well, we got one, just not.
Not the one that we're going to use.
it wouldn't have been an anthem. It would have been something else. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Soup, you want to hit us with the high road hauling?
I can do that. So we started doing these high road haulings a long time ago, and mainly they were not meant to be about trucking. They were just meant to be motivational or common experiences that people have questioned and things like that. And this popped up earlier this week that I kind of keyed on it because everybody has to deal with this topic from time to time, and it is a part of life. So this week's High Road Holland is about coping with grief and loss. There are many types of loss, and grief is a natural response to that. There is no right or wrong way to grieve, but by understanding the types and stages of grief, you can find healthier ways to cope. What is grief? Well, grief is a natural reaction to loss. It is an emotional suffering you feel when something or someone you love is taken away. It can be overwhelming to the point you feel you're helpless. Grief can trigger numerous other emotions like shock or anger, disbelief, guilt, and sadness. The pain of grief can also change your physical health. It can make it difficult to sleep or eat or even think straight. And this is normal. The more significant the loss, the more intense your grief will be. Coping with the loss of someone or something you love is one of life's biggest challenges. But any loss can cause grief, including a divorce or relationship loss or loss of health, losing a job, loss of financial stability, a miscarriage, retirement, death of a pet, or a loved one's illness. Even a subtle loss can trigger a sense of grief. For example, you might grieve after moving away from home or graduating from college or changing jobs. Whatever your loss, it's personal to you. So don't feel ashamed about how you feel or believe it's somehow only appropriate to grieve for certain things. If the person, animal, relationship, or situation was significant to you, it's normal to grieve your loss, the loss you're experiencing. Whatever the cause of your grief, though, there are healthy ways to cope with that pain, and in time that can ease your sadness and help you come to terms with your loss, find a new meaning, and eventually move on with your life. So inevitably, the grieving process takes time and healing takes time, but there are many misconceptions, and here are some myths and facts about grieving. So myth, the pain will go away faster if you ignore it. Right? Fact, trying to ignore your pain will keep it from surfacing, or trying to keep it from surfacing will only make it worse. You need to face your grief and actively deal with it. Myth, it's important to be strong in the face of a loss. Fact, feeling sad, frightened, or lonely is a normal reaction. Crying doesn't mean you are weak. You don't need to protect your family or friends by putting on a front. Showing your true feelings can help them and you. Myth, if you don't cry, it means you aren't sorry about the loss. Fact, crying is a normal response to sadness, but not the only one. Those who don't cry may feel the pain just as deeply as others. They just simply have other ways of showing it. Myth, grieving should last about a year. Not. Fact, there is no specific time frame for grieving. How long it takes varies from person to person. And another myth, moving on with your life means forgetting about your loss. Not right. Fact, moving on means you've accepted it, your loss, but that's not the same as forgetting. You can move on with your life and keep memory of something or something. In fact, these memories can become an integral part of who we are. While grieving a loss is an inevitable part of your life, there are ways to help cope with pain, come to terms with your grief, and eventually find a way to pick up the pieces and move on with your life. First, try to acknowledge your pain. Second, accept the grief. That grief can trigger many different and unexpected emotions. Understand that your grieving process will be unique to you. Seek out face-to-face support from people who care about you. Support yourself emotionally by taking care of yourself physically. And recognize the difference between grief and depression, because there is a big difference there. And the quote this week, grief is the price we pay for love. And I really like that because that was spoken by Queen Elizabeth.
That is a good quote. Yeah, I don't know what inspired you to write that, Super Dave, but, oh, wow, look, there's a fire out there. Sorry about that, squirrel. I don't know what inspired you to write that, but it's so true, because when I lost my brother, I don't think I cried for a year. And then I cried every day for like the next 2 years. You know,
wow.
Just like,
Jan, that is so true.
It's just kind of crazy, yeah.
Because when my mom passed away, I didn't cry at the memorial, and then
It hits you.
It hit me like a couple months later, and I lost it for quite a while.
Yeah, it might be, you feel like you need to stay strong in that moment, or maybe even subconsciously, and then, it just kind of weighs
Sure.
down on you eventually. So,
Yep.
good high road hauling, Soup. Thank you.
That is great.
Final thoughts, everybody? Or you got something on that, Jim?
No, I was just waiting for the final thoughts. But so Al, when Super Dave does these, we don't ever talk about those. He doesn't like get them approved or we discuss them. And usually our stuff ends up matching really well
It
with
does.
that. And I've always wanted to tell you, Al, your dad's funeral that you did was the best funeral, if that can possibly say it that way, that I've ever been to. Because when you did the phone and him calling, it lifted the room to another level. There was grieving. It was sad, but it was another level of joy. And I've always wanted to tell you thank you for that, because it's actually set the bar. I've told Dave, because I get emotional. I'm like, oh Dave,
sure.
you're going to have to do mom and dad's, because it's going to suck
Right.
for me.
Right.
I can't get through it. But you've set the bar for myself that I have something important to say about my folks, when that time comes, and I hope I can say it without being that emotional. But yeah, you did. I've always wanted to tell you that, man. That was a fantastic job you did.
Jeez, get me teared up and goosebumps. That's great feedback, and man, that's awesome. That was a special time and a special celebration. Then,
Yeah, it was good stuff. So that was. You just
That
lined
was
up.
your final thought?
Not really.
Oh.
No, it was like I had to spit that out. So I just quickly, because loading overweight and looking out, when you change lanes and doing stuff, there's a quote here, and we must do what we conceive to be the right thing, and not bother our heads or burden our souls with whether we are going to be successful. And I think, when you haul overweight and it, there's always that chance of being caught or, being pulled over or, the possibility of a crash or anything like that. And since you're not doing the right thing, you have truly bothered your head and you've burdened your soul.
You're looking over your shoulder.
You're looking over your shoulder. It might not be a big deal, but you haven't done the right thing. So, because if we don't do the right thing, we'll be doing the wrong thing, and we will just be part of the disease. And I know that sounds critical, the disease, but if you're not doing the right thing, it's like everybody else that's doing the wrong thing. You're just the disease. It's not, and it ends here that you're part of the disease and not part of the cure. So if you're hauling the correct weights and doing the best job possible, it sets the bar to cure that. We don't have to run reports on it. We don't have to worry about the public. We don't have to worry about people's families. We don't have to worry about State Patrol. We don't have to worry about the port. It's cured.
You took the high road.
You took the high road. It's cured. So I want to touch upon that. And then I didn't write down whose quote that was, but one of Churchill's deals said is, our friendship with the United States sums up in a quote, and it says here, Winston Churchill famously observed that Americans will always do the right thing only after they have tried everything else. And it has to do with the war at that time. But that lives true. We'll do anything else sometimes, and I doubt it's just Americans, but we love to do everything else possible before doing the right thing sometimes. So just do the right thing. It's just easier that way, you guys. And I did this as a pun, okay? So this is from Lou Holtz. It's not the load that breaks you down, it's the way you carry it. So I know that's personal, right? It's how you carry the load, your burdens, all that kind of stuff, and how you carry that burden might break you down. It is the same thing with your truck. How you carry that load is going to break you down. So just do the right thing and load legal.
Sure.
That's my final thought.
Got it. BD?
Mine's pretty short and sweet this week. I just want to say, hang in there. It's been a long winter. I think we've got kind of a slow day today, even though we don't have any weather or whatnot. Be grateful. Be good at what you do. love the people around you, say thank you to everyone, and let's get back to strong and proud, not weak and woke.
I like that. Wokeness breeds weakness. Al, you got some final thoughts?
Oh, man, catch me off guard, but I think what you guys do out there on the road is important, and you mean something.
Thank you.
You know, don't think you're just a lonely old trucker.
That's
You know,
awesome.
it's important, and so if you ever find yourself in a hole, the first thing to do, stop digging.
So true.
Oh, that's
So
great.
true.
That's funny because we tell the drivers, hey, when something's going on, just stop.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Yeah.
Call
for
someone.
sure.
We're here to help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say quickly, thanks for coming on, Al. I've spent a lot of years hauling out of that quarry and then your other pits around town too, Pit 4, Pit 8, and it's just a pleasure having you on and hearing a little bit about the history and your family and just stories about the quarry. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, Al, you've been a great guest. I've picked up on some words that you've been saying throughout the podcast. One, when you were talking about your marriage, you talked about selflessness. Then, when you talked about having your kid work at the quarry, you talked about your yoke could be heavy. Then you started talking about an arrow in the quiver, and these are all things that I've seen in the Bible. I was like, this guy's a man of God right here,
Amen.
right? So I'm going to give you a proverb that this Bible verse kind of came to me during the podcast, and you had talked about giving your plans over to the Lord. Anyway, Proverbs 16:3 says, commit your actions to the Lord, and your plans will succeed, right? So
Right on.
my family is going to be praying for the Albert Frei family and the JFW family and all the other families that will benefit and grow from the new 200 acres being permitted. So I believe that's going to come true for you guys. Okay? Thanks for being on the show.
That's
Thanks.
awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
All right, guys, girls, everybody, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. We're going to leave you.
Oh,
No, we're not going anywhere.
Okay.
No,
We're gonna do the creed.
We got to do the creed.
Yeah.
I got lost there.
It's a good finish. It feels good,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So
Together we face and overcome all that stands before us. Together we are accident free. Together we joyfully create honest value for those we serve. Together we celebrate our differences and respect those with whom we work. Together we are accountable for our words and our actions. Together we are the JFW family.
All right, guys, girls, anybody listening, we're going to leave you with the big, bright, shiny red trucks, and we'll see you next week.
yeah. Thanks, guys.
Sure.
See you,
See ya.
everybody.
I see those big, bright, shiny red trucks just a trucking down the road. Those big, bright, shiny red trucks just a looking for another load. Well, it's a family tradition, any Rocky Mountain day. Our fathers before us showed us the way. We work for asphalt cowboys and concrete kings, but that's never been a problem, cause we got diesel in our veins. We've got diesel in our veins. I see those big, bright, shiny red trucks just a trucking down the road. Those big, bright, shiny red trucks just looking for another load. I hear there's a couple million tons to move. I see them everywhere. So you best get out their way and watch that sand and gravel disappear. There's another run to make. We gotta get it there on time. And we got what it takes to lay it all out on the line. We'll lay it all out on the line. I see those big, bright, shiny red trucks just a trucking down the road. Those big, bright, shiny red trucks just looking for another load. Those big, bright, shiny red trucks got the best drivers in town. They got all the tools they need. to keep that hammer down. When they hit them scales, they won't need to dodge them, won't need to duck them. They just keep that hammer down, and they keep that diesel trucking. Keep that hammer down, and keep that diesel trucking. I see those big, bright, shiny red trucks just a-trucking down the road. Those big, bright, shiny red trucks just a-looking for another load. They just keep them doors a-closed, keep them butts in their seats, 'cause those customers are calling, and those red trucks can't be beat. They've gotta put the hammer down and pick up another load. Get it off the ground, keep them eyes open and on the road. Keep them eyes open on the road. I see those big, bright, shiny red trucks just a-trucking down the road. Those big, bright, shiny red trucks just looking for another load. Breaker 23, anybody got a copy on that Channel 23 podcast? Welcome, and thanks for listening.